Chapter 261. The main purpose of Awang Trading Company's trip was to visit the young miss who had married off to the distant Chiu kingdom. Exchanging 4 carriages of cloth for food with a certain merchant association in Chiu kingdom was secondary. Arbor didn't ask about anything else. To put it bluntly, she just wanted to hitch a ride and follow the trading company's caravan to the Chiu kingdom. Then she would think of a way to rush to the great snow mountain outside Five Moon City. The caravan traveled day and slept at night, eating very arduously. Normally, they only ate bean porridge or mixed grain rice once a day. Rice and vegetables were out of the question. If it happened in other people's homes, they would have been beaten to death by the adults long ago for their extravagant behavior of using rice to exchange for this and that all day. There were a total of 5 workers in the caravan, plus Uncle Wang's group of 6. When night fell and they missed their lodging, they set up their tents and sat together to eat a bowl of warm bean porridge. Everyone only had a small bowl, not even half a bowl more than that. Arbor actually didn't plan on sharing the pitifully small pot of bean porridge with them, but Uncle Wang always called her over every time it was time to eat. The little stoic didn't talk much, so she basically had nothing to say when she ate with everyone. If it weren't for a chatterbox in the caravan chatting her all day long, this little stoic could stay silent all day and night. That chatterbox young man was called Monkey. He was 15 or 16 years old, and was especially talkative. After a few days of interaction, Monkey didn't find out anything about Darling Qiao's situation. Instead, he told her everything about everyone in the caravan. He even told Darling Qiao the little secret of their trading company's eldest miss marrying off to the distant Chiu kingdom. Thanks to him, not only did Darling Qiao know that the trading company's miss had eloped with someone to the Chiu kingdom, but she also knew that she wasn't doing too well right now. The trading company's trip was said to be to visit the miss, but in reality, they wanted to bring the miss back as much as possible. After all, compared to the stability of the Mo kingdom, a small border country like the Chiu kingdom had much more difficult days, especially during this unusual period. However, this had nothing to do with Arbor, and she didn't have the leisure to care about it. The West is a mess. Wars break out every day and fights every year. There are endless disputes. Monkey drank a mouthful of porridge and smacked his lips as he said, "Little Qiao, why did a child like you travel such a long distance to the Chiu kingdom?" Uncle Wang lightly kicked Monkey. "You talk too much. Why does Miss Qiao need to report to you? All right, hurry up and finish eating and go to sleep. We still have to leave early tomorrow morning." "Oh look, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Why does it look like a chicken is squatting under the tree?" A young man in the convoy rubbed his eyes while holding a bowl of rice. Monkey jumped up and nearly dropped his bowl. "You're not seeing things. It's just a chicken, ha 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 ha. Here's more food for us. Hey, be careful. Don't scare it." Shush. A waiter took out a net from nowhere, and sneakily moved closer to the tree. Xiaomu was sitting beside Uncle Wang. When she heard someone say chicken, she had a bad premonition. Looking back, he saw Newbie squatting under the tree and cooing. "Damn, how did it follow me?" When Arbor went out, he deliberately did not bring this thing with him. He wanted to leave it at home, but it naturally disappeared after 3 days. Who would have thought that it would follow them here? And the problem was, it had been more than 4 days since she left. She had only used 3 summoning talismans. 1 talisman lasted for a day, so 3 talismans would allow it to stay by her side for 3 days. Why? It still existed? Chapter 262. Cuckoo. Weak Chicken vigilantly flapped its short wings as it watched the 3 humans who were trying to outflank the tree. Haha, did they think that it couldn't tell that the 3 words, "my food," were written greedily in these 3 humans' eyes? Arbor face-bombed and speechlessly turned its small face away. She didn't need to look to foresee Monkey's 3 lamentable fates. Even she, a level 4 mystic cultivator, couldn't catch up to Weak Chicken. So those 3 fellows could forget about it. A cuckoo. Clack. Weak Chicken suddenly jumped up as if its feathers were standing on end. It flapped its wings and dashed away, its long and slender claws practically as fast as lightning. A whirlwind blew past the 3 dumbstruck workers. F***ck. Was this the speed that a chicken could exhibit? The 3 workers turned around in unison, and one of them quickly walked forward with a net to catch Weak Chicken on the ground. Weak Chicken flapped its small wings and kicked the worker in the net with its long and slender claws. Don't be fooled by its slender and long claws. When it kicked the worker's back, it sent him, who was so big, flying into the air. A big horse fell to the ground, and before he could react, his head was stomped by 2 chicken feet. Bam, 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 bam. Weak Chicken flapped its wings and fiercely beat the worker's head. Darling Chow covered her eyes with one hand, practically unable to continue watching. Uncle Wong hastily jumped up and waved at the 3 workers, anxiously saying, come back, hurry and come back. How was this a freaking meat chicken to add to the meal? This was simply a violent beast. Monkey hastily ran forward with another person and dragged the pitiful person under the chicken's claws back with a mop. Along the way, the person was forcefully slapped by the chicken's wings several times, and the left side of his face was red and swollen. Cuckoo! Weak Chicken suddenly spread its wings at the crowd. Arbor's expression changed slightly, and she pushed aside a worker who was standing next to her. She roared at everyone, hurry and get out of the way. Everyone rolled and crawled in all directions. A water pillar, like a rainbow piercing through the moon, slid past the monkey with a whoosh and pierced through the old tree behind him, leaving behind a bowl-sized hole in the middle of the tree. The water column rushed past, and in less than a second, the tree split into pieces with a bang. The top half of the giant tree fell down and smashed towards the tents. There was a loud boom, and the entire ground trembled a few times. Xiao Mu's small face instantly turned pitch black after the tent she had set up was completely smashed. Get over here! Darling Xiao roared in fury. The weak chicken shrunk its neck, but it still braced itself and flapped its short wings, running in front of the child. Who allowed you to follow me? The child was so angry that he picked up a tree branch thicker than his thigh and threw it at the weak chicken. Don't run, you dead chicken. Who told you to get into trouble? Who told you to do bad things? Uncle Wong was speechless. He thought back to when City Lord Gu greeted him and smiled meaningfully at him. Don't be fooled by Miss Chiao's young age. You don't need to worry about anything on this journey. Now that he saw the little girl pick up such a thick tree branch effortlessly, Uncle Wong finally believed City Lord Gu's words. Clack! Cuckoo! The weak chicken flapped its wings vigorously, flying up and down in one moment. It jumped onto the monkey's head, scaring him to the ground. The next moment, it jumped onto the carriage and cooed on the roof. In the end, Darling Qiao was exhausted from the chase. Her little face flushed red, and she glared fiercely at the chicken. You! Hurry and disappear! The weak chicken sensibly raised a chicken claw in front of her. The golden summon character was engraved on it, and it sparkled in the night. Chapter 263. Bao Bao is so angry. God is too deceitful. After the talisman effect ended, no matter what kind of beast it was, whether it was an ordinary beast, a high-level mystical beast, or even a demonic beast, or even a demonic plant, any summoned creature should have disappeared along with the end of the time. Why didn't this chicken scram? The last time she summoned it, it only existed for a day and then scrammed. And this time, even if she used 3 summoning talismans, it only corresponded to 3 days. The talisman effect should have ended 3 days ago. Why didn't it scram? Little Qiao Mu was exhausted as she slumped on the mattress in the carriage. She didn't even want to look at a certain chicken that was also slumped beside her with its claws curled up. Master, little master, what's this chicken's name? Usually, Arbor rarely let the little golem out in front of others to avoid that chatterbox monkey asking questions. She wasn't a talkative person. Only when everyone returned to their tents to sleep did little Qiao Mu let it out for a while. Seeing that little master was so tired that she didn't want to bother with it, the golem continued to make its presence known. Master, master, I'm called Big Bao. Is this chicken called Little Bao? Arbor crawled up from the mattress and reached out to hit the golem's head. Bah! Your whole family is called Little Bao. No. Your whole family isn't called Little Bao. Bao Bao was so angry. She shouldn't have talked to them. So long-winded, so annoying. So annoying. She might as well be alone and quiet. How can this chicken be called Little Bao? It has a body of blue feathers and is so ugly. I'll call it Da Qing in the future. No, what future? There was no future. Could it be that this thing couldn't disappear? The golem was secretly smug. So ugly. It's not as nice as Big Bao. Little Master definitely loves me the most. Sleep. Little Xiaomu was so angry that she slumped back onto the mattress. She covered herself with the blanket from head to toe and rolled to the side of the carriage to sleep angrily. The next day, Arbor didn't wake up until the carriage moved slightly. She didn't think that she could sleep well after a night of anger. Her little head poked out of the blanket and met the eyes of that damn chicken. Why haven't you disappeared? This should be the 6th day. Little Xiaomu pointed at the chicken with a strange look in her eyes. Coo. Weak little chicken raised its paw and pretended to show the word summon. I don't want to see it. The child covered his eyes with one hand and suddenly jumped up from the carriage. His head hit the carriage with a dong sound, and he was in so much pain that tears were about to flow out. Little Master, Little Master, Little Master, does it hurt? The golem shouted as it circled around her feet. Miss Little Xiaomu. Hearing the commotion, Uncle Wang urged his horse to gallop to the side of the carriage. We have to leave the Mo Kingdom's borders before sunset. Let's continue on our way. Xiaomu rubbed her small head and glared fiercely at the cowering weakling. Was it because she had used 3 summoning talismans in a row that the talisman's power and time did not match? This thought would eventually disappear after 4 days. Xiaomu looked oddly at the weak chicken that had persisted for so many days without disappearing. She finally understood something. This little Xiaomu lowered her head and looked at the yellow summoning talisman for a while. She had a bad feeling. Could it be that she couldn't summon anything else, but this little Xiao? We're entering the border of the Qiu Kingdom. Do you want to come out and take a look? Chapter 264. Upon hearing this, Arbor put away the yellow summoning talisman in her hand and lifted a corner of the curtain to look outside. As far as the eye could see, it was all yellow sand and thick soil. It looked hazy, and a few sparse houses could be faintly seen amidst the sand and dust. As expected, the western border wasn't as prosperous and wealthy as the Mo Kingdom. Arbor hopped off the carriage, and the chicken also flapped its wings and hopped to her side, its 2 slender and long claws clicking happily. The border town of the Qiu Kingdom is just up ahead. Uncle Wang led a horse and sighed in relief. Our journey here was quite smooth. Miss Chiao, let's go over now. Their journey had indeed been quite smooth, especially since they hadn't encountered a single zombie in the Mo Kingdom. Even Arbor found it inconceivable. However, when they exited the Mo Kingdom and entered the Liang Kingdom, they had encountered a small group of zombies. Fortunately, their convoy had escaped quickly, so they hadn't encountered the zombie squad to avoid wasting their energy fighting. The further west we go, the more careful Miss Chiao will be. Although the Qiu Kingdom is a small kingdom, the king is tyrannical and unscrupulous. The soldiers he raised also casually trample on the villagers. Uncle Wang sighed and shook his head. When we pass through Pony Town later, we will need to hand over some supplies. Miss Chiao, just sit in the carriage and don't make a sound. Xiaomu nodded and then boarded the carriage again. Da Qing, that weak chicken, also hopped onto the carriage and sat down next to the child, miming to her. The carriage headed towards Pony Town at the border of the Qiu Kingdom. When they reached the entrance of the town, they naturally slowed down and caught up with the group passing through. There weren't many people lining up to pass through the Qiu Kingdom border. Most of the people in the northern part of Sikong Planet were concentrated in the Mo Kingdom. Other than the businessmen who came and went, very few ordinary refugees would flee to a small kingdom like the Qiu Kingdom to make a living. What are you doing? What are you holding? Give it to me. The soldier who was investigating directly snatched the basket from an elderly woman's hands, ignoring the objections of others. When he lifted the cover of the basket, the stench of salted fish assailed his nostrils. It was so King smelly, yet she treated it as a treasure. The soldier was so angry that he threw the basket to the ground. The old woman cried as she squatted down to pick up the salted fish that had rolled into the dust. The Qiu soldiers kicked her impatiently, and she rolled to the side. Scram! Line up properly. What are you looking at? The soldier's gaze landed on Uncle Wang's convoy, and a trace of greed flashed in his eyes. Come over here. The motorcade was coming. What are you transporting? Uncle Wang smiled as he handed over a small bag of beans. He whispered into the soldier's ear. Little brother, we are a trading company from the Mo Kingdom. We have an agreement with your country's Duanmu Trade Union to exchange goods. This is the exchange document between the two countries, as well as the certificate from Duanmu Trade Union. The soldier glanced at Uncle Wang and took the documents from him. He did not dare to make things difficult for him. After all, the Duanmu Trade Union was famous in the Qiu Kingdom. Even the great king of the Qiu Kingdom would tremble when the patriarch of the Duanmu family stomped his feet. A mere soldier like him naturally did not dare to make things difficult for a customer of the Duanmu Trade Union. However, this small bag of beans, which did not even weigh 5 caddies, was truly too little. If the brothers were to split it, they might not even get half a caddy. The soldier glanced askance at Uncle Wang. According to custom, we have to search the convoy. On the side, Monkey glared angrily at the soldier, but Uncle Wang pulled him to the side by his sleeve. He responded with a smile. Sir Soldier, please take a look. However, our young miss is in the first carriage, so please do not disturb her. Chapter 265. Swoosh. The soldier didn't care about what Uncle Wang said. He lifted the curtain of Arbor's carriage first. In an instant, he was met with a pair of cold and emotionless eyes. The eyes were like a dry well without any ripples. She looked at him as if she was looking at a corpse. He was clearly just a child sitting quietly in the carriage, but the moment he saw him, he gave the soldier a fright. You. The soldier took half a step back and was patted on the shoulder by another soldier behind him. What are you doing? The soldier who came later pushed aside the soldier in front and leaned over to take a look at Arbor. A strange look flashed through his eyes. The child sitting quietly in the carriage was young, but she sat upright and had a noble aura deep in her bones. Because it was the beginning of autumn, the child wore a black brocade cloak over her pink robes. Her snow-white face was already foreseeable that she would be a flawless beauty when she grew up. Yo, this little girl looks pretty good. The soldier licked his lips and carelessly touched the child's cold face. However, just as he stretched out his hand, Weak Chicken cooed and lowered its head to peck him fiercely. Ah! The soldier looked down and saw a bloody mark on his hand. His expression changed abruptly, and he glared fiercely at the carriage. He had been attracted by the child's cold and beautiful appearance, and hadn't realized that there was a chicken in the carriage. F***ck. It's a chicken. The soldier's eyes turned green when he saw the chicken. He smacked his lips and said gruffly, "Brothers, there's a chicken here. Let's catch it. It'll go well with wine tonight." The dozen or so soldiers cheered and laughed. They were all excited when they heard that there would be chicken to go well with wine tonight. Who knew how terrible their lives had been recently? Ever since zombies spread throughout the Qiu Kingdom, it was good enough to barely have 2 meals a day, let alone chicken, duck, and fish. Soldiers, you can't. Uncle Wang hurriedly went forward to stop them, but he was pushed aside by a soldier. Little girl, you'd better come down. The oily soldier maliciously extended his hand toward Xiaomu again. Arbor's eyes were extremely cold. Although she didn't like Weak Chicken, it didn't mean that any cat or dog could bully Weak Chicken. Newbie was her summon creature, not someone else's dish. Therefore, this group of blind idiots could go to hell. Bam! A kick landed on the oily soldier's face. The other party was caught off guard. With a wail, he fell backward and landed heavily on the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. The 2 nearby soldiers also ate a mouthful of dust, and their faces were immediately filled with anger. One of them rushed forward and was about to lift the curtain again when he saw a small figure dart out of the carriage with a whoosh, and a fierce fist landed on his eye. His eyeballs almost flew out on the spot. Roar! The soldier covered his eyes and cried out in pain. He fell to the ground on his butt. Before he could see the situation in front of him clearly, he was suddenly slapped in the mouth by a slender chicken claw. He was stunned. The oily soldier that was the first to be kicked down by Xiaomu strenuously crawled up from the ground and cursed angrily with a contorted face. He glared viciously at Xiaomu and said, "D***mn lass, you're quite capable. See if I don't sell you to a brothel after I catch you." Arbor's pitch-black eyes stared at the oily soldier. It was as if she could shoot a hole through him. Suddenly, she flew through the air and quickly arrived in front of the oily soldier. Arbor waved her hand, and a white light flashed between her fingers and the oily soldier's neck. Chapter 266. Oily soldier was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. If he hadn't taken a step back, the white light would have slashed his neck. How could this little girl be so ruthless? Unfortunately, that was only what he thought. He thought he had dodged death, but in the next instant his neck was cleanly separated from his head. There was a thin line on his neck, and it took a while for blood to flow out. The soldiers all stopped in their tracks and looked at the little demon with fear in their eyes. They had never seen a child take someone's life the moment she attacked. How old was she? 7? 8. The people waiting in line had already scrambled to the sides of the road, not daring to make a sound. Arbor kicked away the soldier's corpse and coldly scanned the crowd. "In the past, you've sold many little girls to places like the one he mentioned, right?" He really did kick. It was as if he had kicked a pile of trash instead of a person. More than a dozen Chiu soldiers were trembling in fear in front of a little girl. This was something they had not expected and could not have imagined. These people had dominated Ponytown for a long time. They had never thought that they would be defeated by a little girl one day. Looking at his companion's decapitated corpse on the ground, one of the soldiers forced himself to grit his teeth. He flashed the knife in his hand and angrily roared, "Everyone, let's attack together. She's just a little girl. Do you think we can let her go?" Upon hearing this, 4 to 5 sturdy Chiu soldiers immediately ran over and brandished their shining sabers at Xiao Mu. A few young men from Uncle Wang's team wanted to help, but the remaining 7 or 8 soldiers rushed up and pressed them to the ground. The Chiu soldiers were especially ruthless. They rushed up without a care and swung their clubs at the crowd. Not only did they injure the young men in the convoy, but they also injured the trembling commoners who were squatting on the side. An old man was too slow in retracting his leg and was hit. His leg bone immediately cracked, and he let out a pitiful cry. Arbor's eyes flashed with anger. He sneered, "You can't wait to die?" Several bodies securing talismans suddenly floated in front of the little girl. One by one, they split open on the soldiers' bodies. He immediately summoned a black ferrule from his mind and pointed it at the Chiu soldiers who were frozen in place with their mouths wide open. Then die obediently. Xiao Mu was like a sharp arrow that had been shot out. She swiftly circled around the soldiers, and wherever her ferrule passed by, several round heads slid down from their necks one by one. The 7 or 8 soldiers who were crazily beating up the commoners stopped in shock. One of them shouted towards the entrance of the town, his eyes filled with shock, "Quick, go and inform 5 Moon City's guard Hua. Enemy troops are invading." A Chiu soldier who was watching the battle at the entrance of the small town immediately mounted his horse and rode into the town in a crooked manner. "Enemy forces? Her?" Xiao Mu was a bit dumbfounded as she poked her small face. Uncle Wang hurriedly ran over. "Miss Chiao, take advantage of the fact that there are no guards at the town's entrance. Quickly follow us into Duanmu Trade Union." As long as he went to Duanmu Trade Union, he would be fine. Duanmu Trade Union had great influence in the Chiu Kingdom and definitely had the right to speak. Now that they had alerted 5 Moon City's guards, even if they turned back and ran towards the Liang Kingdom, they would be caught before long. Chapter 267. Unexpectedly, the little girl only shook her head. "Uncle Wang, we're already in the Chiu Kingdom. According to our agreement, you can leave first." She would not go with them to Duanmu Trade Union, nor would she implicate them. Since she had already chosen to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Chiu soldiers, she did not want to let them off so easily. Of course, she was the one who started this, so she would bear all the consequences. "Uncle Wang, go to Duanmu Trade Union with the others." "I'm fine." Arbor urged Uncle Wang and the others to leave. Uncle Wang was unwilling. "I promised the city lord that I would bring you safely to the Chiu Kingdom. Brother Monkey, take Uncle Wang away." "Don't worry, I'll be fine. If you stay here, I'll have to take care of you." The child curled her lips and said expressionlessly, Thank you for taking care of me along the way. We'll meet again if fate wills it." With that, she waved a few immobilization talismans and immediately froze the 7 or 8 horrified Chiu soldiers on the spot. At this moment, Uncle Wang had also seen some signs. He had suspected that the child had an extraordinary background. Now that he saw her actions and thought of City Lord Gu's words, he did not hesitate anymore. The child's words made sense. If they continued to stay here, they might become a burden. Now they had to take the opportunity to enter the town and seek protection from the Duanmu trade union. Only then would they be truly safe. The entrance to the town was in chaos. The citizens in line followed Uncle Wang's caravan and hurriedly entered the town. None of them dared to linger. In the end, the entrance to the town was empty except for Arbor. Of course, that was if one ignored the 8 Chiu soldiers kneeling at the entrance with their hands tied behind their backs. The weak chicken trotted to Xiao Mu's side with its slender and long claws, and it gracefully squatted down beside her. Arbor glanced at it but did not say anything. The weak chicken turned its head and looked at the child. Cuckoo it cooed. A group of Chiu soldiers appeared in Pony Town. There were about 100 of them. 5 Moon City's guards would not arrive so quickly. This was probably the town's overall defense force. The tiny Chiu kingdom only had 1 main city and 2 smaller cities. It wasn't even 1% the size of the northern Mo kingdom. However, since it was located at the western border, it served as a great barrier against the barbarian tribes in the west. Furthermore, trade was very frequent, so the upper echelons of the Mo kingdom allowed the existence of this barrier. Otherwise, such a small country with no sense of existence would have been annexed hundreds of years ago. Therefore, when he received the news of an enemy invasion, Ponytown's deputy garrison was truly shocked. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't understand why they were suddenly attacked. Liangua did it. Or was it the state of Zhao? Or perhaps the Mo kingdom? The deputy garrison leader's gaze fell outside the town. His pupils constricted at first, and then they were filled with confusion. There was a little girl sitting at the entrance of the town. She was about 7 or 8 years old. She held a black ferrule in her hand and gently tapped it against her palm. "Who are you?" The deputy didn't dare to act rashly. He reined in his horse and stood still. Without waiting for the child to speak, a coo sound was heard. Weak Chicken suddenly stood up, shook its short wings, and waddled in front of everyone. The deputy garrison leader and the soldiers were all dumbfounded. What was this chicken doing? Xiao Mu also jumped up before taking out a handful of talismans. Weak Chicken cooed, and all its feathers stood on end. With a splash, a pillar of water swept into the group like a torrent. Ah! The group was immediately scattered. Many soldiers rolled and fell in the water. Chapter 268. This time, Arbor froze on the spot in a daze. He really didn't expect this weak chicken to suddenly jump out and fly into a rage. This mouthful of water was really good. Arbor's eyes curved. He was about to praise the weak chicken, which he rarely did, when he turned his head to look. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch inexplicably. The weak chicken's current actions were rather strange, but looking at it lying on the ground and shaking its butt non-stop, that wretched appearance was really unbearable to look at. On the other side, the deputy garrison was helped up from the ground with a dark face. He was drenched from head to toe, looking like a drowned rat. When he got up, the deputy garrison's feet slipped, and he managed to stabilize himself with great difficulty. He turned his head and berated his soldiers to regroup. A bunch of cowards. So many people couldn't even handle a chicken. The deputy garrison roared, "Hurry up, hurry up!" When he turned his head to look at the chicken, he couldn't help but be stunned as well. This chicken, what was it doing? It kept shaking its butt and using its claws to dig a hole in the ground. Its butt kept rubbing against the hole. Was it trying to start a fire on its own? Or was it King constipated? "Sir, this chicken fiend is very strange." A soldier stretched out a finger and pointed at the weak chicken as he spoke in a genteel manner. "Nonsense. Can't I see that there's something strange about this chicken? Who would normally raise a chicken that could spray water so far? Not only did it wash over 100 of them, but it also drenched them all. What an outrageous chicken. The deputy guard slapped away the arrogant soldier with a slap. All of you. The deputy garrison stretched out his hands and gestured for them to charge forward. All of you go. Capture it alive for me. See if I don't kill it alive in steam, fry it. Who? The weak chicken raised its head and looked at the deputy garrison with a cute and innocent face. The deputy garrison felt like he had seen a ghost. Why did he feel like this damn chicken seemed to understand what he was saying? Go. The deputy garrison shook his sleeves, and a bunch of soldiers behind him roared and rushed toward the weak chicken that was digging a hole in the middle. Xiao Mu stood behind weak chicken and couldn't help but raise her hand to cover her face. Newbie had been digging a hole. Could it be that it was digging a coffin for itself and jumping in to bury itself? Screech. Suddenly, weak chicken let out a long and clear cry that tore through the sky. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the weak chicken's body was undergoing a strange transformation. It kept rubbing its butt, and its sharp tail feathers kept extending and extending. A wisp of blue light suddenly bloomed all over its body. Its pair of pitifully short wings suddenly spread out, leaving behind a gorgeous shadow. When it spread out, it was at least 10 meters long, and its green wings stretched straight to the horizon. Xiao Mu was dumbstruck and subconsciously blinked her eyes. Compared to the young master's dumbfounded expression, the deputy garrison guard and his men were the most terrified. They wished they could poke their own eyes out for comfort. Chicken? Chicken my ass. What kind of chicken was this? Who could tell them that this big bird with beautiful wings and green eyes, which part of it looked like a chicken? If slapping themselves 3 times could make them think that everything in front of them was a dream, they would be more than happy to slap themselves in the face. Sir, this is a divine bird, right? Do I need you to spout nonsense? This isn't a chicken, anyone can tell. Screech. The green bird flapped its super huge wings and suddenly rushed into the air, circling above everyone. The deputy garrison guard was so scared that he fell on his butt, his old face dark. Chapter 269. Shriek. The cyan bird shrieked, and its circling figure abruptly swooped down from the sky. The deputy guard was so frightened that his face turned pale, and he scrambled to run backward. Run. Whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Heavy rain suddenly poured down from the sky. The scary thing was that the rainwater turned into ice cubes of various sizes halfway through and smashed into the heads of the Chiu soldiers running for their lives. F***CK. The soldiers who were hit all fell to the ground with their heads broken and bleeding. They cried bitterly as they scrambled away. Some of the more timid ones were so frightened that they fell to the ground and foamed at the mouth. Shriek. While the cyan bird was attacking the crowd, a large group of soldiers led by 5 Moontown's Guard Hua swiftly ran toward the town's entrance. From afar, Guard Hua and his group saw the large cyan bird circling in the sky. Its wings almost covered the entire sky. Its body was so huge that it caused the hearts of Guard Hua and the others to skip a beat. Did some nearby kingdom bring a large group of mystic cultivators and mystic beasts to attack? Release the arrows. Guard Hua roared. He raised his hand, and the thousands of soldiers below raised their bows and shields and lined up in formation. Aoye's expression changed, and he suddenly appeared beside the little girl. He pursed his lips and called out. In an instant, dozens of black figures rushed over and landed behind Aoye. The little guy turned around and looked at the youth who stayed up all night with a dumbfounded expression. Shui's eyes were filled with a strange expression. Today was so lively. First, the weak chicken ascended to the heavens. Then, Aoye attracted so many people. If Aoye hadn't taken the initiative to tell them to show themselves, the child wouldn't have noticed so many people lurking around her. Every one of these youths in black had cultivation auras that were no weaker than Aoye's. Why was it like this? Since when were level 10 mystic cultivators as common as cabbages on Seacombe planet? As expected, poverty limited one's imagination. Thinking back to her previous life, she simply couldn't come into contact with this magnificent level. Moreover, how weak was she that she couldn't reach the standard of a level 10 mystic cultivator until her death? No wonder she was tortured to death without any room to retaliate. She wanted to increase her cultivation. She wanted to advance. She wanted to work hard to become stronger. The youth's gazes fell on the little girl in the middle. The little girl was clenching her small fists with a strange expression on her face. She clenched her fists forcefully again and again, making a comical gesture. What happened to Miss? Stay Up Late was speechless as he looked at the child. Inside, however, he was smiling. It was rare to see Miss so full of life. It was really good. He didn't know what had touched the depths of her cold heart. When the little stoic returned to her senses, she discovered that her actions were very strange. With a stoic face, she calmly retracted her small hand and turned to look in the direction where the thousands of arrows were simultaneously released. Release the arrows. Behind Guard Hua, hundreds of thousands of arrows flew out and shot towards the blue bird in the sky. The little girl's face changed. She stomped the ground and tried to run, but Stay Up Late grabbed her arm. Young miss, wait. Screech. The blue bird flew up in midair, bringing with it a ray of blue light. In the blink of an eye, all the arrowheads in front of it were sucked in. At this time, it was as if time had stopped, and all the arrowheads stopped in front of the green bird. Guard Hua looked at the sky in horror and abruptly berated his subordinates. Retreat. Everyone retreat, retreat. All of you rascals, listen carefully. The one who will take your lives today is me. My name is Qinghuan. I was born from heaven and earth. Screech. After the stern screech, countless motionless arrowheads uniformly changed directions and violently shot towards Guard Hua's army. Chapter 270. Guard Hua and his men ran into the town scared witless. They scrambled to find cover to block the arrows. However, the arrows came too suddenly. The Qiu soldiers had no time to react. At least half of them were injured by the arrows. They fell to the ground and wailed in terror. Xiao Mu's face was filled with shock. After a while, she pulled her gaze away from the scattered Qiu soldiers. She looked up at the sky and suddenly heard a low cry. The blue bird quickly flew in front of her. Before she could react, she felt her body lighten. She was thrown onto the bird's back, and it rose into the air. The child knelt on the bird's back in a daze and looked down. Guard Hua was hiding in the crowd. He was furious. With the help of a few people, he managed to climb up the town's observation tower and ordered the soldiers to use the large crossbows to shoot the blue bird in the sky. These large crossbows were powerful and had a long range. However, they had an obvious weakness. They were slow to load. Guard Hua's expression was vicious. He didn't order the soldiers to aim at the blue bird, but the child on its back. However, just as he moved, Ao Ye's sword was pressed against his neck. Guard Hua didn't even see the figure clearly. All he saw was dozens of black figures quickly climb up and occupy the observation tower. With a few slashes, they slit the throats of the surrounding Qiu soldiers. Blood dripped down the high platform. Below, thousands of soldiers raised their spears and machetes and surrounded the entire observation tower. Ao Ye's sword lightly touched Guard Hua's neck. Guard Hua felt as if a venomous snake had slithered up his neck. It was so cold that his entire body trembled. What are you doing? Obediently retreat, and I'll leave your corpse intact. With that, he took out a token and waved it in front of Guard Hua coldly. Guard Hua's pupils constricted. If not for the fact that he was being held by someone, he would have collapsed to the ground already. This was the personal token of the Mo Kingdom's crown prince. Why did it turn out like this? Why did it provoke someone like the crown prince of the northern Mo Kingdom? Guard Hua was sweating profusely. He had no idea what was going on. Move quickly. Tell your men to stop shooting arrows and throwing stones. Otherwise, it will be seen as a provocation. You won't be able to withstand the wrath of the crown prince. Stay Up Late pressed his sword against Guard Hua's neck. At the same time, the blue bird circling in the sky used its huge wings to fan a gust of wind, suddenly knocking down all the stones and arrows that were shot into the air. The Qiu soldiers howled in agony. They were no match for the blue bird. Guard Hua hurriedly shouted, "Stop the attack! Stop!" Screech. The blue bird flapped its huge wings and glided across the vast blue sky. In an instant, it disappeared before everyone's eyes. Stay Up Late slid his sword across Guard Hua's neck and tossed his corpse off the watchtower. The Chiu soldiers reached out to catch Guard Hua's falling corpse. They were all leaderless and fearful as they looked up at the dozens of black-clothed youths with powerful auras on the observation deck. Go back and tell your great king to properly inventory a batch of supplies and send it to Miss Chiao from the Holy Water Sect's first peak as compensation for your offensive words. If the compensation isn't in place within 3 days. Stay Up Late narrowed his cold eyes. You don't want to know the consequences of offending our crown prince. After throwing down these harsh words, the group of black-clothed youths immediately left. They naturally didn't care about the Chiu soldiers' wails below. Chapter 271. Miss Chiao had no idea that her classmate, Aoyi, had asked her for compensation. She sat on Blue Phoenix's back, her face hurting from the strong wind. Then, he activated the eggshell defensive barrier, blocking out the wind that was blowing against his face. Xiaomu pursed her lips and knelt on Blue Phoenix's back with a serious expression. She placed her hands on her knees and sat upright. Although Blue Phoenix's flying speed was astonishing, it was very stable. It flew out of Chiu's largest city, Five Moon City, in a flash. It retracted its wings and landed outside the city. However, they were too eye-catching as they flew through Chiu's borders, causing a commotion in Five Moon City. However, no one chased after them, and Xiaomu didn't want to know the reason. Right now, she was so angry that her stomach was about to explode. She looked up and saw large stretches of undulating mountain ranges. They were covered in snow all year round. That should be the snowy mountain that her master had mentioned. After Qing Wuan landed on the ground, it put her down and retracted its pair of long wings. Its entire body shrank. At this moment, Qing Wuan had completely transformed into a fluffy little chick. If its blue feathers were to turn yellow, then it would truly be a little yellow chick. The little chick flapped its short wings and flew to Arbor's shoulder. It nuzzled its head against her neck, purely to show its goodwill. However, the flattery backfired. Arbor immediately punched Weak Chick. Her face darkened as she chased after Weak Chick, who was flapping its wings wildly. I'll beat you to death. Xiaomu angrily chased after it, and gave it a good beating. Newbie was so scared that it cooed and kept flapping its little wings to run away pitifully. Come here. This damn chick still dared to pretend to be weak and cute. She would beat it to death. Hee, it had just defeated so many people, and now it was still pretending. Why didn't it ascend to heaven? No, it had already ascended to heaven. Coo. The little chick ran quickly. It flapped its short wings and flew up and down. One adult and one chick, one human and one chick, dashed up the mountain path. The little chick suffered 2 punches on its head. After being roared at by the child, it pathetically stopped running. It folded its wings and curled up on a rock, lowering its head to admit its guilt. The child who had been chasing after them had a flushed face, and was panting heavily. You. Master, why did you hit me? Little Chick asked with a face full of confusion. I really don't understand Master's world. He thought that if he revealed his true form and revealed his strength, Master would definitely like him. However, the reality was so spicy that it made people sad. Are you still going to pretend? The child scolded, and his little hands unconsciously went to his waist. He said angrily, if you don't pretend, you scammer. Do I need to be jolted on the road for more than 10 days? You should be able to fly there in a few hours. Little Chick's face was filled with confusion. CK your sister. He obviously knew how to speak, yet he pretended not to understand. The kid was so angry that he grabbed a tree branch and swung it at the little chick. Coo. Little Chick flew all the way up the mountain along the snowy white path. Coo. Little Chick stopped, and Arbor also stopped. Many people had appeared on the mountain path ahead. They were lining up along the main mountain path. When Xiaomu looked up, she could vaguely see a magnificent mountain gate. The 3 words Holy Water Sect were engraved on it. However, what was up with these people lining up? Yo, this child at such a young age even knows about Peak Master Murong of the first peak. This is too funny. Peak Master Morong hasn't accepted a personal disciple for so many years. He can't even come up with a better lie. That's right, that's right. It would be more believable if you told us that the second Peak's Peak Master Yang, or the third Peak's Peak Master Lu is your master. Ahaha. The crowd burst into laughter as if they were watching a joke, and Arbor was speechless for a moment. Caw. The little chick, who was squatting on Arbor's shoulder, suddenly jumped as if it was about to explode. Arbor hastily reached out to grab the little cyan chick. These aunties and uncles were just a bit bored and had bad mouths. But they weren't like those Chio soldiers who wouldn't shrink from any crime. They couldn't withstand Chingwan's icy breath. Chapter 273. The child hugged a chick and looked adorable, but her face was a bit stoic and did not have much of an expression. Anyway, don't cut the line. Go line up. A plump woman pouted and waved her hand at Arbor. Arbor turned to look at the mountain gate that seemed to stretch to the horizon, and sighed in her heart. Why didn't she see a single senior sister? Opening the mountain gate and accepting disciples was such a big event, so there should be many disciples coming out to receive them. Where were eldest senior sister and second senior sister? She didn't see the senior sisters she was familiar with from second and third peaks either. Xiaomu looked down at the red carp jade pendant in her hand. Morong Sun tossed her the sect token before she left, and the words First Peak were engraved on the back of the jade pendant. If she randomly met a senior sister and showed it to her, it should be enough, right? Xiaomu looked up and saw a little girl in red about 10 years old waving at her from the top of the stairs 20 steps ahead of her. Soon, a blue-clothed maidservant ran down and pulled Xiaomu's hand. She said to the aunties around them, "This is our family's child. Sorry, make way, make way." That maidservant pulled Xiaomu's hand and squeezed her way back to the little girl in red. "Little sister, are you okay?" The little girl patted Arbor's shoulder and smiled at her, revealing a small dimple on her left cheek. Xiaomu woodenly shook her head. "You're also here to participate in the holy water sex entrance test, right? Don't be scared, just stay by my side." Are you also from the nearby Chio Kingdom?" The little girl in red was dressed in a neat riding outfit, but she was valiant and formidable at such a young age. It did not seem like she was from the Chio Kingdom. "No." The little girl shook her head. "We're from the Alava tribe in the west. I'm Doya. What about you? What's your name?" "And my name is Arbor," the little stoic answered. However, she thought, holy water sex entrance test is such a big event, so it must have spread all over the world. No wonder there are so many people lining up here. Doya smiled, and the dimple on her left cheek deepened. She reached out to rub the little stoic's frozen face. "Little sister, don't pull a long face. It should be our turn to be tested very soon." Then, as Miss Doya had said, it should be very soon. Damn, it was not until the sun had set in the west that they finally saw 2 or 3 people in front of them. It was almost their turn to be tested. Xiaomu was so depressed that she wanted to squat on the floor and draw circles. After queuing for so long, he finally saw his own sect. If he had known earlier, he would have asked his senior sisters for a sect messaging talisman. "Stretch out your left hand." 2 female disciples were sitting in front of the mountain gate. They had set up a long table. At this time, the sky was slightly dark, but the rows of stone troughs on both sides of the mountain gate were already burning with raging flames, clearly reflecting everyone's faces. Arbor glanced at them, and found that she didn't know any of the 2 female disciples who were sitting, or those who were standing behind them. But that was to be expected. The only holy water sect disciples she knew were the 7th fairy's daughters. They were the top disciples of their peaks, so they probably wouldn't do such a boring reception job. Darling Qiao made up her mind to flash her identity token when she went up later. How could there be such a scam like returning to the sect? However, wasn't the holy water sex test a bit too sloppy? The senior sister just now had a 9-year-old girl stretch out her hand, and then poured a drop of water into her hand from a jade bottle. Several seconds later, she took back that drop of water and expressionlessly said, "You didn't pass. Next." Chapter 274. Several little girls who went up in succession failed, and ran down while sobbing and covering their faces. Doya and Arbor looked at each other in bewilderment. Doya couldn't resist asking, I wonder how that water droplet is tested? Why is it immediately tested after dripping a drop of water on it? Who the hell knew what kind of lousy test this was? Xiao Mu's face was stoic, but she couldn't deny her disdain for her sect. Wasn't this a waste of time? Dripping a drop of water on each of them was considered a test? If this happened to her, she might not be able to pass this crazy test. Next, Doya suddenly gripped Arbor's small hand tightly. She took a deep breath and quickly walked up. A drop of water landed on Doya's left palm. A few seconds later, the water droplet actually rolled back and forth in Doya's palm, emitting a soft glow. This glow was held in Doya's palm as if she was holding a wisp of bright moonlight, illuminating her spotlessly white and flawless face. It was very beautiful. Xiao Mu dazedly stared at that glow. Whoa! This water droplet really had a bit of a name. Previously no one reacted because that water droplet looked down on them. The two holy water sect senior sisters behind the long table revealed faint smiles and nodded at Doya. Very good. Pass and stand behind us. Oh, so the four girls standing behind the two holy water sect senior sisters had passed the test. Wow, including Doya, there were only 5 people. There had probably been over 10,000 people tested earlier. Only 5 out of 10,000 people. This probability was too low. Doya's dimples deepened as she smiled. She turned around and gestured for Xiao Mu to work hard before excitedly standing behind the two senior sisters. Next, the two holy water sect senior sisters were startled when they saw Xiao Mu walking up. Wasn't this child too young? Many people surged up the steps behind them and squeezed between the first and second steps to watch the test. They all whispered to each other and asked about the test. When they saw the child, the women who were blocking her earlier all pursed their lips in disdain. This child is so young. She definitely won't pass. That's right. If it was that easy to pass, so many people wouldn't have been eliminated. Xiao Mu bounced in front of her two senior sisters and reached out to touch the red fish jade pendant in her pocket. Stretch out your left hand. You don't need both hands, one of the senior sisters said softly. Yes, don't be nervous. It won't hurt. The other senior sister also nodded, thinking that Arbor was so nervous that he didn't know where to put his hands and feet. Xiao Mu was speechless. What's wrong? There are still so many people who haven't finished the test yet. Master. The two female disciples stood up at the same time and bowed respectfully to the person who had come. The newcomer looked to be around 26 or 27 years old. She was dressed in a purple dress with purple bamboo embroidered on the hem. She had a smile on her face and looked like she wouldn't keep a straight face no matter who she met. It's fine. You guys continue. Master is just here to take a look. The second Peak's Peak Master, Yang Shirong, covered her mouth and smiled. In an instant, murmurs could be heard from all directions. All the sisters-in-law and uncles who were holding on to their children became excited. This was the second Peak's Peak Master Yang. If she saw how outstanding their children were during the test, she would definitely take them in as her disciple immediately. All right, let's begin the test. Little sister, stretch out your left hand. Xiao Mu had a puzzled look on her face. She had just taken out the jade pendant from her pocket when her left hand was pulled over. A drop of ice-cold water that seeped into her bones dripped onto her small palm. Suddenly, the drop of water emitted a bright and flawless light in the child's palm. A blinding white light spread out from her palm. Compared to Doya's faint soft light from before, this was what it meant to be truly radiant. In an instant, it cut through the night and illuminated the surroundings. Chapter 275. Yang Shirong's eyes widened in shock. The gentle expression that had never changed for 10,000 years had long since disappeared. What replaced it was shock. Shock. And shock again. Quick, give her another drop. Yang Shirong's eyes narrowed in excitement as she stared at the child who was standing there dumbstruck, as if she was afraid that the child would be taken away immediately. He hurriedly got up and walked quickly to the child. She gently pulled the child's left hand and dripped another drop of water onto her palm. In a daze, Everyone's vision was taken away by a blinding white light. Nothing in the world could block the blinding light. It was only when the 2 drops of water slowly seeped into the skin of the child's palm that the terrifying and dazzling light gradually faded away. Yang Shirong's mouth was agape for less than a second before she pounced on the child like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. The child was startled, and her eyes widened as she subconsciously took a few steps back. But how could she be a match for Peak Master Yang? Peak Master Yang hugged her tightly and pulled her into her arms. Good disciple, quickly follow Master back to the second peak. Master and disciple are indeed fated to meet even though we're thousands of miles apart. Look, it's already so late, but Master can still bring you back, ha 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 ha. Master's trip here was not in vain. Yang Shirong hugged the child tightly in her arms, as if she was hugging a precious treasure. The child uttered a few syllables. Master, am I? Hey, good disciple. Don't speak, it's already so late and you must be tired. Master will bring you back to the second peak to rest. Then, without waiting for the child to speak, she flew away with a whoosh. Her speed was so fast that it was as if something was chasing after her. Why was it so bright just now? Could it be that the divine water has a particularly large reaction to someone? Sui floated past. A cold and beautiful woman suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Greetings, Uncle Master. Han He and Lu Yun recovered from their shock and hurriedly bowed. Who's so talented? To be able to emit such a dazzling light, this was something that had never happened before. Han He said, Yes, it's a disciple that Master just took in. Master has already brought her back to the second peak. Lu Yun snorted heavily. Han He didn't even dare to tell Martial Uncle Lu that the little junior sister whom Master had snatched away just now had such astonishing talent, that she had actually absorbed 2 drops of God's water into her body. TSK, if you want to take in a disciple, then so be it. It's as if you want to snatch him away. You didn't even show your face and snatched him back to the second summit. A mocking voice followed. She didn't even need to see who it was. She knew it was eldest Aunt Master Morong-sun just by hearing that carefree smile. Greetings to Martial Uncle Morong. Morong-sun casually waved her hand. This peak master merely saw the commotion here, so I came to join in the fun. It's nothing special, so go about your business. After she finished speaking, she leaned against the long table with a smile on her face and winked at Han He as she said, Little He, what kind of disciple did your master take in just now? He ran away in such a hurry. It's not like it can't be exposed. That junior sister with great talent. Morong-sun was displeased when she heard this. She snorted and turned her head away while waving her hand. No matter how talented she is, she's not as talented as my youngest disciple. Your master picked up a pretty good one and treated her like a treasure. In the future, I'll let her experience what it means to truly have outstanding talent and be as smart and adorable as snow. Chapter 276. Lu Yun abruptly harumphed and looked behind Han He. These are the ones who passed the test. Yes, Aunt Master. Lu Yun waved her hand at Doya and the short girl next to her. The 2 girls' faces flushed with excitement, and they immediately ran over. What are your names? Follow me back to third peak. Doya immediately smiled, revealing her deep dimples. She hastily nodded and said, Master, this disciple's name is Doya. This disciple's name is Zhangyu. The girl called Zhangyu was half a head shorter than Doya, but she was chubby and much wider than Doya. Her grape-like eyes swiveled around, looking very clever and quick-witted. Yes, you 2 will follow me back to third peak. Lu Yun nodded aloofly. Wait, you little fellow. Morong-sun's figure swayed, and she arrived in front of Zhangyu, lifting her off the ground. Lu Yun's aloof face darkened, and she glanced at Morong-sun. Senior Sister Morong, what are you doing? I'll take these 2 disciples. You can do whatever you want with the rest. Morong-sun rolled her eyes at Lu Yun. I've already taken in a closed-door disciple, so I won't take in disciples in the future. What did she care about? Compared to her stoic-faced disciple, these, and these were all too lacking in aptitude. They simply couldn't enter her eyes. Greetings, Aunt Master Morong. Zhang Yu, who was being carried by Morong Sun, said with trepidation, "Don't call me Aunt Master yet." Morong Sun narrowed her eyes and shook Zhang Yu in her hand. "You brat, you still want to trick me? You're a boy, right?" Her words stirred up 1,000 ripples. The spectators were all dumbfounded. They had yet to recover from the news that a child who appeared to be 7 or 8 years old had just passed the holy water sect's bizarre test in a high-profile manner, and was carried away by Second Peak's Peak Master Yang like a treasure. At this moment, they were struck dumb by this wave. What? Everyone in the world knew that holy water sect did not accept male disciples. Could it be that this child planned to disguise herself as a girl and sneak into holy water sect? Zhang Yu started sobbing and whining delicately. "I'm not a boy, I'm not a boy." Morong Sun thoughtfully glanced at Zhang Yu and sarcastically said, "How about you take off your pants?" "Why don't I take off your pants?" Zhang Yu's face immediately turned red. The surrounding crowd was fired up, and they all scolded. "A boy like you actually wants to sneak into the holy water sect? Isn't that so? How did the adults in your family teach your children? How could they even think of something as ridiculous as cross-dressing? Isn't this taking up a slot? Seriously. By the looks of it, a peak master would at most take in 1 or 2 disciples. Yet this brat wanted to snatch a spot. This was simply unforgivable." At this moment, a rotund middle-aged man jumped out from the crowd and pointed at the crowd angrily. "You talk too much. My son clearly passed the test. How can you not let him enter the school? My son has been raised like a little girl since he was young. You can just treat him like a little girl. Besides, he had clearly passed the test. No, you can't throw us out. You can't throw him out." The fat middle-aged man was already held up by 2 female disciples. He stomped his 2 short legs and roared angrily. Our dear Zhang Yu even hugged Morong Sun's arm and wailed loudly, continuously wiping away his tears. "Aunt Master, accept me, accept me. I'm a miss, I'm a miss." Morong Sun. Lu Yun. Everyone. What an odd pair of father and son. Unheard of, unseen. Chapter 277. Morong Sun did not know whether to laugh or cry as she waved her hand. "Invite them down the mountain." The first rule of the holy water sect was that they did not accept male disciples. Even if you could say something nice, it was still not allowed. Little Zhang Yu wept as he slid down the ground. Adhering to the principle of hugging someone's thigh, he tightly hugged Morong Sun's leg and refused to let go. "Aunt Master, take me in, Aunt Master." The little fellow thumped his chest and stomped his feet as he wailed, "Morong Sun. How did this Peak Master meet such a weirdo like you?" Third Peak's Peak Master Lu's expression was a bit awkward. She hastily picked another little girl and led her back to Third Peak with Doya. Morong Sun glared at Lu Yun's fleeing figure and harumphed. She forcefully pulled that weirdo off of her. "Why aren't you sending the father and son down the mountain yet?" Morong Sun was not in the mood to continue watching the test, so she swiftly left this place in a flash. As expected, her disciple was the least annoying when it came to children. She liked them just looking at them. As for our dear Qiao Mu, how could she have known that the entrance to the mountain would be so lively after the event? She also did not know that her unreliable master, Morong Sun, had come. Halfway through being carried back by Second Peak's Peak Master, Yang Shirong, she felt all the mystic energy in her mystic meridians roiling endlessly. This feeling was very similar to she was about to advance. Previously, she had been stuck at the initial success stage of level 4 mystic cultivation, and had been stuck for a long time without any movement. So what was this inexplicable situation? Although she could sense a very dense mystic energy aura as soon as she entered the holy water sect. Wasn't this too ridiculous? She had not even meditated to cultivate yet, so why did it feel like she was about to advance? Qiaomu quickly collected her thoughts and opened her dantian. She saw that her mystic meridian, which was originally hidden under the tree roots and securely wrapped by countless roots, was now exposed and endlessly absorbing the mystic energy roaming through her mystic meridians. Milky white mystic energy was rapidly flowing through her mystic meridians, which were different from all the other meridians in her body. Her mystic meridians swelled slightly and slowly expanded. Arbor could sense that her mystic meridians were slowly thickening with this subtle expansion. Her mystic meridians that were originally half a finger wide had now gradually expanded to be close to a finger wide. The widening of her profound veins meant that her profound veins would be able to accept even more profound energy, and her cultivation speed would definitely be much faster than before. "My dear disciple, you're about to break through," Peak Master Yang exclaimed. He hurriedly landed on the second peak with the child in his arms. Arbor didn't even have time to take a look at what the second summit was like before he was quickly brought to the second summit by Yang Shirong, to the cultivation room with the densest profound energy. "Disciple, don't worry. Master is right outside. Focus on advancing, don't be impatient. Also, don't rise too quickly all of a sudden. Maintain a steady state of mind. As cultivators, we must have a limit in our hearts and a bottom line. Advancing to a certain level is enough, even if there is still energy left over." This child looked like she didn't have any cultivation just now, so how did she suddenly display the cultivation of a level 4 mystic cultivator? How would Yang Shirong know that due to the fact that he was about to advance, the profound energy in Arbor's body was flowing so violently that it directly dispersed the aura-concealing talisman's power? After the cultivation room closed, Yang Shirong was still worried and paced back and forth outside. The child looked too young, so she didn't even know if she understood what she said just now. Yang Shirong was worried that the child would be too excited and directly advance without any obstructions. This definitely wouldn't be beneficial to her future cultivation. 2 drops of sacred water had been absorbed into the child's body, so the effect of her advancement would definitely be very terrifying. She hoped everything would go smoothly. Chapter 278. Our dear Arbor felt very baffled. She simply didn't expect that the opportunity for her advancement this time was related to those 2 strange drops of water, just now. She only thought that it was because the holy water sect's mystic energy was so dense that her stagnant realm suddenly loosened up. Arbor sat in the cultivation room and held her breath. She immediately sensed the endless mystic energy pouring in from the outside and entering her mystic domain through her rapidly agitating mystic meridians at a terrifying speed. The sapling Qiuqiu in her dantian happily extended its branches and hurriedly absorbed the mystic energy continuously pouring in from the outside world. It sucked in mouthfuls at a speed not inferior to Arbor's absorption speed as it fought over mystic energy with its little master. Our dear Qiaomu, who had long been accustomed to the deceptive tree bandit's methods, could already turn a blind eye to it and not care in the slightest. Right now, she only felt a bit shaken. The mystic energy rapidly flowing in her mystic meridians was rushing into her mystic domain at a jaw-dropping speed. The barrier to the initial success stage of level 4 mystic cultivator was broken through in an instant. Our dear Qiaomu quickly experienced what was called an abnormal advancement method. She watched helplessly as the barrier to the phenomenal success stage of level 4 mystic cultivator, and even the peak stage, was broken through, and she triumphantly advanced all the way to level 5 mystic cultivator. This kind of advancement speed caused Arbor to become vigilant. She looked inside her body again, and saw that other than the milky white mystic energy continuously surging in her mystic meridians that were close to the width of a finger, there were also strands of an unknown silver substance that floated back and forth in her mystic meridians. Compared to the dense mystic energy, these strands of silver were pitifully few. However, Arbor's brows furrowed slightly. In her previous life, she had never seen this kind of silver substance in her mystic meridians. However, now was not the time to think about this. The urgent matter at hand was to suppress her rapidly advancing cultivation as soon as possible. Aunt Master Yang was right. Mystic cultivators had to have a limit when it came to mystic cultivation. They couldn't blindly advance rashly in their cultivation. It was better to stabilize it before advancing. She had broken through from the initial success stage of level 4 mystic cultivator to the phenomenal success stage of level 5 mystic cultivator in one go. Her mystic energy increased explosively without any signs of slowing down. This truly was a bit flustered. After absorbing so much profound energy in one go, his entire profound veins, including his profound domain, could be said to have expanded to the extreme. If this continued, it would be very easy for him to explode and die. Furthermore, if one were to advance too quickly, it might cause one's own realm to become unstable, which would not be beneficial to one's future cultivation. However, she couldn't stop it. The momentum of her advancement was like a ferocious tiger released from its cage, charging all the way up. She was a peak level 5 mystic cultivator. The barrier to level 5 mystic cultivator had been completely broken. She had entered level 6 mystic cultivation, and was gradually reaching level 6 mystic cultivation. Xiao Mu was on the verge of tears. She subconsciously called out, "What about Qiuqiu? I can't stop the momentum of my advancement." Qiuqiu. This damn tree disappeared again? The sapling Qiuqiu was silent for a while and couldn't help but ask, "Master, what are you worried about?" "I've advanced so quickly and absorbed so much profound energy into my body, will I explode on the spot?" Qiuqiu. "Master, are you an idiot? Why do you always have some weird thoughts in your head? If you don't want to absorb the profound energy, just tell me, I can absorb all the profound energy. This much profound energy is enough for me to grow 2 leaves. Besides, why do you think your realm advanced by leaps and bounds? Is it the stimulation of the profound energy in the outside world? It's not. It's actually because you absorbed 2 drops of sacred water." Little Arbor. Chapter 279. Then what do I do now? Hurry and help me stop. She didn't want to advance anymore. This advancement speed was so terrifying. It didn't feel like a normal human. Xiao Mu's heart was about to leap out of her chest as she watched herself break through the initial success and phenomenal success stages of level 6 mystic cultivation, and charge toward the peak of level 6 mystic cultivation. "Master, are you really not going to consider directly breaking through the barrier of level 7 mystic cultivation?" Qiuqiu tempted the little fellow. "Let me tell you, if you break through to level 7 mystic cultivation, Qiuqiu can immediately help you assimilate the paradise. Hurry. Absorb the remaining holy water essence. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I don't want it anymore." Wah wah wah. What was this cheating tree still nagging for? "It's precisely because I want Master to break through to level 7 mystic cultivation that I held back from snatching those 2 drops of holy water away." Qiuqiu muttered inwardly, and immediately wrapped Xiao Mu's mystic domain with its branches before burying it deep into its roots again. The remaining bit of holy water essence was completely absorbed by the sapling's roots. This process was extremely fast. 2 tender green leaves even immediately grew on the sapling's bare branches. Arbor immediately felt her entire body lighten, as all the mystic energy that was swarming into her body was instantly drawn away by the sapling. She heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly focused her mind and calmed her breathing as she sorted out the mystic energy flowing in her meridians and mystic meridians bit by bit. The child discovered in astonishment that the mystic domain that originally led to the depths of her dantian was naturally just a mystic meridian. But now this mystic meridian actually had a fork. The fork was as thin as a line, but there was indeed a wisp of mystic energy slowly swimming within and extending to the mystic domain. Although it was very strange, the little fellow didn't have time to think about it in detail. She instantly charged from the initial success stage of level 4 mystic cultivation to the phenomenal success stage of level 6 mystic cultivation. She was only a small step away from breaking through to the peak of level 6 mystic cultivation. This leap was truly too large. Her heart was still thumping wildly in her chest. Her heart was in a mess, and she almost couldn't calm down immediately. Arbor tried her best to restrain her racing heartbeat, and barely managed to calm her mind. She restrained her aura and completely blocked her 5 senses, forcing herself into a completely blank world. Little by little, he stabilized all the restless profound energy in his body, suppressing the rapid advancement of his realm. This sorting process proceeded very slowly, and it wasn't long before Qiaomu was completely immersed in it, completely ignoring everything else. At the same time, the jubilant sapling was increasing its strength to extract the rich mystic energy from the outside world. When it was delighted to find that one soft and tender leaf after another was slowly emerging from the branches, The speed of its absorption suddenly increased. Profound energy, I'll give you as much as you can. Qiuqiu howled in the depths of its heart. In the outside world, the dense mystic energy on the holy water sect's second peak was endlessly flowing toward the cultivation room arbor, was in a very strange manner. After that, the surging mystic energy on the second peak was far from enough to satisfy the bandit Qiuqiu. The entire sect's 3 peaks, including the sect master's main peak, were all alarmed. Everyone ran out of the house as they stared in shock at the sky above, at that ball of profound energy that was so dense that it was almost turning gray. So much profound energy was moving towards one place at full speed, completely without a trace of reluctance. Holy shit! All the mystic energy was drawn to the second peak? What the hell is the second peak doing? Originally, the mystic energy on the sect's 3 peaks and the main peak was evenly distributed. Today, this kind of balance was completely broken. There will be an extra chapter tomorrow, and all 5 chapters will be uploaded at noon. It's about time. Based on my conjecture, JoJo will be taken back tomorrow. Also recently, readers have been asking me if I charge for this. I definitely charge for this. Let me give you a reminder. Authors also need to eat, so they can't write in a vacuum. If this author doesn't exist, doesn't die, and doesn't eat the food of mortals, then I'll definitely charge for free. But I'll do my best to write more for everyone for free. I haven't received a notice to publish yet, so I'll tell everyone about this. Because some readers are young, they might not understand. So let's understand each other and pay attention to civility. Let's not attack each other, okay? There are many activities on the book website, and you can receive book coins every day. Perhaps you'll say that I read a lot of books, and that this bit isn't enough. But you have a lot of choices. But every author only has one book to rely on for a living. So let's understand each other, okay? Also, I won't accept razor blades. You're not allowed to give me homework either. Give me chocolate, I want it. Because many readers from other channels couldn't see the author's digressions, I'll talk about it in the main text today. See you tomorrow. The author is long-winded today, so I won't talk about it in the future. Chapter 280. On the Holy Water Sect's main peak, a row of simple bamboo buildings sat in the depths of a light green bamboo forest under a blanket of white snow. Even in this world of ice and snow, it was still verdant and lush. We still have enough food to eat for 3 months. Murongsun lazily leaned against the brocade couch and expressionlessly stared at the sect master sitting across from her. The Holy Water Sect's sect master was about 60 years old. Her appearance was unremarkable, and she wore an extremely simple blue and white robe. She had a benevolent countenance and a smile on her lips. She held a large palm leaf fan that maids used to light fires. It could be said that if this elderly lady was thrown into a crowd of people, she definitely wouldn't make a splash. She was completely an ordinary elderly lady from a farming family. The sect master's hand that was holding the palm leaf fan paused, and she sighed. Ah, that can't be helped. The world is difficult right now, and normal people are living worse off than us. How about this, Morong? Pass down the order that the entire sect's 800 disciples will have 1 meal every 3 days. Change it to 1 meal every 5 days. The sect master extended 5 fingers and waved them. Murongsun's lips fiercely twitched. She just knew this unreliable sect master would come up with rotten ideas all day long. The most important thing for us cultivators is to temper our body's toughness. Hunger tolerance is also a part of cultivation, the sect master said seriously. I haven't eaten a grain of rice for 10 days already, so I feel my body is very light and my condition is excellent. Rumble. The sect master's stomach made a very discordant noise. Murongsun nearly burst out in laughter, and looked at the elderly lady with ridicule. The sect master also felt embarrassed and coughed lightly. Master isn't hungry. As long as I enter closed-door cultivation right away, I'll enter a selfless state. At that time, I naturally won't feel hungry. Murongsun stood up and opened the bamboo door. She shouted outside, "Someone prepare food for the sect master." Wicked disciple. The sect master angrily put down the palm leaf fan in her hand. Actually, it's more practical to go to a nearby city and accept some missions when appropriate. Murong Sun turned around and leaned against the door, helplessly looking at the sect master. Mystic cultivators also needed to eat, so they couldn't completely abstain from eating. However, they could block out all the exhaustion in their body after a single closed-door cultivation, so they were more resistant to hunger than normal people. No, no, no. The sect master waved his hand. Children, work hard and cultivate diligently every day. How can we tie them down with some mundane affairs? Here it comes again. This naive sect leader. Murong Sun speechlessly rolled her eyes. Master, entering the world is also a type of experience. You cultivate your heart and train your reflexes. In a battle, the ability to react is an indispensable part of one's strength. Master, the world has become a battlefield right now. Neither you nor I can protect ourselves. Murong Sun gazed deeply at the sect master. She could understand the sect leader's actions, but she did not approve of it. The sect master wanted to protect all the disciples, but this kind of blind protection was actually a way to weaken the strength of the sect. Flower buds that did not grow up in bloody battles. How could they experience the storms of the world in the future? The old lady was silent for a long time before she suddenly raised her head and asked, Ah Sun, when will you take over the position of sect master? Bang. Murong Sun slammed the bamboo door shut, and it swayed so much that it nearly fell off. A disciple holding a bowl of porridge walked toward them and dazedly stood there, looking back at Aunt Master Murong's fleeing figure. Wicked disciple. The sect master was so angry that she jumped up and slapped the brocade couch. At this time, the disciple carrying the porridge looked up at the sky and exclaimed in shock, Sect master, quickly come and look. The sect master angrily ran out of the bamboo building. Her gaze fixed on the ball of mystic energy that was so dense it was turning gray in the sky, and she immediately revealed a shocked expression. Chapter 281. All the mystic energy went to second peak. The sect master's brows involuntarily twitched. What was this troublesome second disciple up to again? No, she had to go take a look. Whoosh. Whoosh. The sect master, Murong Sun, Lu Yun of third peak, and several personal disciples of first and third peaks all appeared on second peak. Holy Water sect was the only sect among the three sects that did not differentiate between inner and outer disciples. Compared to Heavenly Tao sect and Daybreak sect, which had over 10,000 outer disciples, Holy Water sect only had a little over 800 disciples. It was truly pitifully few. All the disciples of the three peaks were the disciples of each peak master, so the pills, magnetite, and other cultivation resources they received were all treated equally. The only difference was that the three peak masters would accept several personal disciples. Compared to normal disciples, the master-disciple relationship was naturally more intimate, and they could also receive some personal gifts from their masters in private. Compared to the lowly and dispensable outer disciples of the other two sects, all the disciples of Holy Water sect lived in a honey pot. At this time, the little troublemaker, who was cultivating in seclusion on second peak, did not know that her commotion alarmed everyone in the sect. Yang Shirong had long anticipated that her master and senior sister would come, so she was already waiting at the front door of second peak's main hall to welcome everyone. When she saw them appear, she ran over with a beaming face. Sect master, senior sister Murong, junior sister Lu, it's fine, it's fine. It's nothing major. If it's nothing major, why did you cause such a big commotion? The sect master glared at her second disciple and looked inside curiously. Aren't you going to bring master inside to take a look? Which grand disciple's cultivation aura is so great that it swept away all the mystic energy in the sect. So miraculous. She really wanted to see her obedient grand disciple. Yang Shirong hastily stopped everyone and chuckled. No, you shouldn't go over to avoid disturbing my youngest disciple's advancement. Oh haha. She then winked at Murong Sun. Senior sister Murong, our second peak is going to win this year's competition between the three peaks again. Ha ha ha. How smug. Even Lu Yun, the third peak master, could not stand it anymore. She truly was a petty person intoxicated by success. Murong Sun threw peak master Yang a fierce look. In your dreams. Once my little disciple returns to the sect, This peak lord will definitely blind your dog eyes. Seeing that his 3 disciples were about to quarrel again, the sect master hurriedly waved his cattail leaf fan and laughed. All right, since there's nothing else, let's go back to our respective peaks. As for the inner disciple competition of the 3 peaks, there were still 2 months to go. There was no need to rush. Wasn't he going to continue accepting disciples tomorrow? Maybe Asun will also receive a good one. There's no need. This peak master has already accepted a little disciple with exceptional aptitude. Counting the days, it's about time. She should be here in the next few days. Murongsun angrily flung her sleeves and left. The sect master laughed awkwardly and gave his 3rd disciple a look. Lu Yun's face was taut as she stiffly threw down these words. Second senior sister. Then we'll be leaving now. Don't be too cocky. As the saying goes, cocky people will be struck by lightning. Let the green hills never change, and the green waters flow forever. Goodbye. Sect master was speechless. Each of his 3 disciples was more unreliable than the last. What kind of nonsense was that? They only saw each other for a short while and started quarreling. Where did the sisterly love between fellow disciples in the same boat go? Young Shirong laughed and happily sent off her master and senior sisters. She then ran back to the child's cultivation room to take a look. She only left after seeing that there was nothing out of the ordinary. However, because of the child's tantrum, all the mystic energy rushed to 2nd peak, so the disciples from the other peaks could only pause their cultivation. Chapter 282. 3 days later, the instant the child opened her eyes, a pitch-black vortex swirled in the depths of her eyes before returning to calmness. Now that she had roughly stabilized her cultivation at the phenomenal success stage of level 6 Mystic Cultivator, she was within reach of the peak stage. She didn't need to be on guard in the sect, so she naturally didn't need to hide her cultivation with the aura-concealing talisman. Looking up at the small ball of thick mystic energy gathered above her head, Arbor couldn't help but ask, Chiyo, what's this ball for? Master, don't waste it. I left it for you. Burp. This fellow actually burped after absorbing mystic energy. How much mystic energy did it absorb? Arbor silently absorbed the small ball of mystic energy into her mystic meridians. After circulating it slightly, she was pleasantly surprised to find that after her mystic meridians widened, the speed at which she absorbed, stored, and digested mystic energy increased significantly. When this mystic energy entered her mystic meridians, it was like entering the ocean and was quickly digested by her body. Arbor sighed slightly. As expected, the mystic energy around her hadn't reached saturation. In other words, she could still continue to advance as long as there was enough mystic energy injected. But this way, her cultivation would advance too quickly. If she completed her advancement perfectly, she wouldn't be able to absorb mystic energy from the outside world for at least 24 hours when her mystic energy was at saturation. This was also a mystic cultivator's self-defense mechanism to prevent endless mystic energy from overloading their mystic meridians and causing their body to explode from being unable to withstand the external pressure. Suppressing the growth of one's cultivation realm was also an excellent embodiment of cultivating one's mind. Without firm willpower, normal people wouldn't bear to suppress it. Why suppress it? Cultivating was so hard and could only advance once every 3 to 5 years, so of course she had to complete her advancement in one go. Otherwise, who knew how long it would be before she could advance again? Moreover, a normal mystic cultivator's advancement process definitely wouldn't be as fierce as the child's. And 2 major stages in a row. Advancing 2 minor stages in a row was already pretty good, okay? Therefore, she didn't need to suppress her advancement. The child retracted her hands and stood up. Just as she opened the cultivation room's tightly shut door, she heard a scream from nearby. Oh no, junior sister Qinghu fainted. Hurry and give junior sister some water. The child pattered over and saw several senior sisters carrying a girl in cyan clothes to a stone chair at the side to sit down. Although the girl in cyan clothes woke up, her complexion and lips were a bit pale. I was a level 3 mystic cultivator's body this week. Why does this girl look like she's on the verge of collapse? The toughness of a level 3 mystic cultivator's body was completely comparable to that of a level 3 body cultivator. It shouldn't be this weak. The little fellow took small steps and squeezed in front of the senior sisters. The senior sisters of the second peak all looked at the child and could not help but be stunned. You must be little junior sister. You've come out. The senior martial sister who spoke just happened to see Master carrying this little junior martial sister back that day, so she recognized Arbor. When the others heard what she said, they finally understood. It turned out that the little junior sister who had always closed the door to her cultivation room and had drawn all the profound energy of the entire sect to her side for the past 3 days was this person in front of her. Little junior sister was squatting in front of Su Qinghu, holding her wrist and looking at her with a strange expression. Su Qinghu smiled at her and said weakly, "Junior sister, what's wrong? You fainted from hunger." Arbor couldn't believe it himself when he said this. A dignified level 3 mystic cultivator actually fainted from hunger. This was truly an oddity. Chapter 283. Why did you faint from hunger? Our dear Qiaomu couldn't believe it. The other senior sisters looked at each other in dismay. What other reason could there be for fainting from hunger? Of course it was because she was hungry. Thinking about how they had already eaten a bowl of red bean porridge 4 days ago, they felt extremely bitter. Junior sister Qinghu wasn't the only one who fainted from hunger. They also felt like they were about to faint. Are you very hungry? The child looked at Su Qinghu curiously. Miss Su smiled shyly at her question. I'm fine, little junior sister. What do you mean you're fine? An 11 or 12-year-old little girl dressed in green jumped out from the side. Her round face was filled with anger as she glared at the child and said, "Why did you faint from hunger? Ask yourself. What did Bao Bao do?" The child was dumbfounded. Junior sister Fong. Su Qinghu looked at Fong Su disapprovingly, then smiled gently at the child. It's nothing, little junior sister. Your senior sister Fong is just this impatient, don't take offense. Also, Master said to find her after you come out of seclusion. Senior sister, you're the only one with a good temper. Fong Su was like a little cannon. She aimed her cannon at darling Qiao and bombarded her. If it weren't for you occupying the cultivation room for 3 days for no reason, and transferring all the mystic energy in the sect to yourself, refusing to share even a single piece of the pie with others, would Qinghu have fainted? Would senior sister Qinghu faint from hunger? Fong Su shouted angrily. It's all your fault. If senior sister Qinghu had entered seclusion cultivation early in the morning and absorbed mystic energy to replenish her body's energy, would anything have happened to her today? Not only senior sister Qinghu, several other senior sisters also fainted because of you. The situation of the other peaks probably isn't any better. Fong Su fired a barrage of words at the child. However, the child was bewildered. She looked at the little cannon senior sisters in confusion. You guys? Just rely on absorbing mystic energy to eat? That's not very appropriate. Fong Su was truly angered by the child. Her mouth opened and closed as she said angrily, "So what if it's not appropriate? Then what if you eat 1 meal every 5 days? What else can you do if you don't seize the time to cultivate? If you don't cultivate, you get even hungrier." Cultivating into a selfless state actually blocked all the negative side effects of the body. But after you're done cultivating, you'll be even hungrier. The child looked at the senior sisters in front of him speechlessly. Why did he feel that they were like a group of retards? Cultivating profound energy could allow one to enter a state of selflessness and then block off the body's sense of hunger. But in reality, the body's sense of hunger did not disappear. It would only become hungrier as time went on, okay? Ahem. Su Qinghu didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw the way the kid was looking at an idiot. Well, junior sister, why don't you go to Master's place first? Here, take it. The child took out a small brown cornbread from the small bag hanging on his waist and handed it directly to Su Qinghu. Before she left, her mother had prepared a lot of food for her. These small cornbread were personally made by her mother. She used corn powder and added minced meat stuffing inside, so it smelled fragrant. It took a lot of effort to do this, And he even asked second uncle to help. Just drying the corn and grinding it into powder with a stone grinder took second uncle a lot of effort. The little fellow stored a lot of mincemeat cornbread in her storage talisman. There weren't many in this bag, but because it was more convenient to take them out, she kept them in there. The moment the cornbread was handed to Su Qinghu, many pairs of eyes landed on that mincemeat cornbread. Little Cannon Fong Su even subconsciously swallowed her saliva, her eyes staring fixedly at that cornbread. Chapter 284. Do you guys have to be so exaggerated? Just a little cornbread is enough to make you guys drool. Xiaomu dug around in her pocket and took out several pieces of rui cakes that had been squashed flat. These were sent over by the city lord's estate, so she casually grabbed a few pieces and put them in her pocket. However, from the looks of it now, they really did not look good. They had been squashed very ugly. If you don't mind them being ugly, you can have them. The little fellow handed over the rui cakes to senior sister Little Cannon. Little Cannon's face flushed red, and she swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva before angrily saying, "Take them back and eat them yourself. I won't bully you and steal your food." Arbor expressionlessly pulled her hands over and placed the cakes in her hands. "Take them and eat them. I still have a lot here. I really have to hand it to you guys. You're all mystic cultivators above level 3, so why are you like idiots starving yourself to this extent?" Darling Qiao's section break. Holy Water Sect's first peak. Unlike the sect master's simple bamboo forest, First Peak had continuous houses in picturesque disorder, and the winding paths of pavilions and terraces were deep and serene. When Murong Sun was constructing First Peak, she spent time and effort finding several famous craftsmen, and tormented them for a long time. The beauty was in a bad mood despite the beautiful scenery before her. Murong Sun had been depressed for several days. If she had known earlier, she would have left someone behind and directly brought her little disciple here. It had been so many days, and the appointed date had long passed, but her little disciple was nowhere to be seen. "Master." Su Shanshan's aloof voice rang outside the pavilion. "MHM." Murong Sun weakly responded and lightly jumped down from the pavilion, landing in front of Su Shanshan. "What is it?" The great king of Qiu sent 5 carts of food, cloth and other supplies. They're waiting outside the mountain gate right now. Su Shanshan's words caused Murong Sun to frown. The great king of Qiu? What do they want to do? Let's go take a look. When Murong Sun led Su Shanshan and the other disciples to the mountain gate, the sect master and junior sister Lu from Third Peak were already there. The sect master chuckled as he sent someone to accept the gift from the great king of Qiu. He kept saying, "How could I accept this? The great king of Qiu must have spent a lot of money." Murong Sun's lips twitched, and she walked up to stop the disciples who were transporting the goods. She looked up at the Qiu soldier captain who was escorting the goods. "What request do you have for our Holy Water Sect to help you deliver so many goods?" The sect master's amiable face immediately changed. "What? You want our sect to do something for the purpose of sending supplies?" Lu Yun. "Master, don't say anything. Your disciple feels a headache when you speak." Murong Sun exasperatedly glanced at the sect master. She raised her hand and pulled the small ringleader to her face. She quietly ordered, "Hurry and speak. What is your objective?" The Qiu Kingdom's minor leader shuddered and wailed as he knelt on the ground with a plop. "This lowly one is under the orders of the great king to deliver an apology gift to Miss Qiao of the Holy Water Sect's First Peak. This lowly subordinate wants to personally hand it over to Miss Qiao. Isn't that clear enough? It's Miss Qiao of the Holy Water Sect's First Peak." Everyone present looked at each other, especially the sect master. She curiously looked at her eldest disciple. "Asun, is there a Miss Qiao on your First Peak?" She was so impressive that she could make the old king of Qiu send so many apology gifts. Speaking of which, why was it an apology gift? Murong Sun's expression changed again and again. She felt like something in her head was gradually becoming clearer. Su Shanshan looked at the Qiu Kingdom's minor leader in shock. "What do you mean? My little junior sister Qiao came? She's in our sect right now?" Chapter 285. It should be. Someone told us to deliver it to Miss Chiao. The soldier captain grew more and more afraid. Why did he feel gusts of cold wind blowing past him? Morong Sun's expression instantly turned unsightly. Her memories started to flow together. Starting from the light that shot into the sky during the test that night, Second Peak's junior sister Yang brought back a disciple with exceptional aptitude. Her disciple entered closed-door cultivation for 3 days and absorbed all of the mystic energy in the sect. Now, someone suddenly sent an apology gift to Miss Chiao of Holy Water Sect's first peak. Could there be a second meaning to this? Her little disciple came early in the morning. How was she Second Peak's disciple? She was clearly Morong Sun's last disciple. *T. Second Peak's Yang Shirong actually dared to snatch Morong Sun's precious disciple back. Morong Sun felt like she might explode on the spot. What kind of lousy matter was this? Aunt Master Morong. The disciples called out, only to see Morong Sun flying into the air with a whoosh with a dark expression, swiftly flying towards Second Peak. Su Shanshan was startled before hastily following her master. When the sect master saw this, she abruptly slapped her thigh. *T. Did you see Asun's expression just now? Oh my, something seems to have happened. Let's hurry over and take a look. The sect master turned around after saying that, but her third disciple was nowhere to be seen. Her mouth twitched as she turned her head back, only to see her third disciple following closely behind Morong Sun and running far away. Evil disciple. The sect master angrily scolded and turned to the snickering disciples. Children, you're responsible for transporting the supplies back to the sect. Leave them there first and wait for your little junior sister to receive them. After saying that, she quickly chased after Morong Sun and waved the fan in her hand back and forth. She hastily shouted, Sun, let's talk nicely. We can't be impulsive. It would be even better if the sect master could rein in her amused expression. On the other side, Arbor was watching Su Qinghu eat the cornbread before nodding and asking, how do I get to First Peak from here? That day was a bit funny. Aunt Master Yang caught her and ran back, but she immediately went into closed-door cultivation afterward, and did not even have a chance to explain. Why are we going to First Peak? Little Pao felt her empty stomach felt a bit better after chewing on a piece of pastry. We can only fly to First Peak. She had to be at least a level 7 mystic cultivator before she could successfully cross it. As for the other disciples, we had to rely on big cranes to go up and down the snowy peaks. If he wanted to visit another peak, he had to report to the chief disciple of his peak. It was not every day that he could visit another peak. Big crane basically comes once every 5 days. It came yesterday. It's still like this. Wouldn't that mean that she wouldn't be able to go to the first peak for a few days? Xiaomu furrowed her brows, conflicted. She had originally planned to leave quietly, but now it seemed that she still had to find Marshal Uncle Yang to clarify this matter. Just as he was speaking, Yang Shirong's cheerful voice sounded. I heard that my little disciple has come out of seclusion. Quick, come over and let Master take a look. Yang Shirong, shut up. Who is your little disciple? A red figure moved like a bolt of lightning, arriving at the child's side before Yang Shirong, and picking her up. The child turned her stoic face, and her eyes lit up as she said, Master. Morong Sun grumpily flicked her forehead. Silly. Su Shanshan did not understand the situation and speechlessly chuckled as she looked at the child. Little junior sister, you're truly naughty. Master was waiting for you in First Peak, but you didn't show up. Who would have thought that you would sneak back to the sect and come to Marshal Uncle Yang's second peak? Yang Shirong felt something was off the more she heard this. She anxiously ran over and angrily yelled, Morong Sun, what are you doing? Let go of my disciple. Your disciple? Morong Sun turned around with the child in her arms and dangerously narrowed her eyes. Mr. Author hasn't noticed that there are more than 10,000 recommendations, so I'll add an update for you all. Everyone is very supportive. After I said those words yesterday, the babies didn't refute me and were very understanding. I'm happy and touched. I'll continue to work hard. It's 6 today. Mr. Author is going to meet up with friends she hasn't seen in a long time tomorrow, so I'll post the noon update at night, a bit later. I'll post the 4 updates together at around 8 p.m. Chapter 286. You're saying this is your disciple? Morong-sun looked at Yang Shirong, who was about to charge forward with her sleeves rolled up, and her voice was light as she enunciated each word with a sardonic smile. OSH*T. Why did she feel like eldest senior sister wanted to beat her to death? Peak Master Yang, who had been afraid of this eldest senior sister since she was young, immediately cowered. However, her cowardice did not last for more than 2 seconds. When she thought about how her exceptionally talented little disciple was about to be snatched away, she immediately came back to life and leaped 3 feet into the air. That's right. This is my disciple. Although you are my eldest senior sister, you still can't do something like snatching someone else's disciple, right? The obedient disciple that I personally picked in front of the mountain gate 3 days ago. Everyone saw it with their own eyes. Humph. Hurry and let go of her. Why are you hugging her? Was her disciple that easy to hug? As soon as Yang Shirong finished speaking, she inexplicably felt a chilly sensation slide past her neck. When she looked up again, *T, Morong-sun had soundlessly arrived in front of her. She was so close yet she was still grinning. *T. Peak Master Yang involuntarily took a step back and crossed her arms in front of her, assuming a defensive posture. She roared, "What are you doing?" The second Peak's disciples all covered their eyes. Their idiot master was clearly cowering, but she still forced herself to hold on. When facing eldest senior master, she freaking cracked her voice. "Junior sister Yang, we haven't sparred in a long time, right?" Morong-sun chuckled. Yang Shirong felt like a bucket of cold water was poured over her from head to toe. "I'll spar with your sister." Peak Master Yang's pretty face turned green, and she hastily took 2 steps back. "Senior sister, I'm telling you. Asun. Don't hit your second junior sister. It's between senior and junior sisters, so let's talk things out." The sect master's voice immediately cut in. She waved her fan and sat down on a stone stool that allowed her to watch from a close distance. As she spoke with a chuckle, Lu Yin pursed her lips. If Master didn't act like a spectator, her acting would be more convincing. "Do you want tea, Master?" Lu Yin humphed. "Oh, give me some." The sect master accepted the tea from the second Peak's disciple and drank it as she watched. "Come, my disciple, wait for me here. Your second Aunt Master. Ah, she's going to go overboard if she's not beaten for 3 days. Morong-sun placed the child on the ground and grabbed the dumbstruck Yang Shirong, dragging her up to the roof with a whoosh. Sect master put down the teacup in his hand in shock, jumped up and shouted, "Asun! Be careful. The second Peak's house was built not long ago. Rascal! Why did you run to the back and fight? How was she going to enjoy it when he pulled it to the back?" Lu Yin chuckled. She directly left her master and jumped onto the roof. Then she quickly jumped back down. She took out an umbrella from her inner world and opened it. The sect master couldn't wait to rush up to the roof to watch the show. However, instead, she was hit by the rolling waves of water, which drenched her whole body in an instant. The sect master was dumbfounded. She angrily roared, "Asun, are you trying to tear down the house? What a terrible disaster." Lu Yin held an umbrella and stood leisurely under the eaves. She stretched out her hand to cover her mouth and chuckled. What was this called? This was called watching a show without thinking too much, but in the end, being struck by lightning. Oh wait, she was flooded. Amidst the rolling waves, Yang Shirong's figure was faintly discernible. She repeatedly exclaimed, "Eldest senior sister, what are you doing? D*MN. I just filled up all the ponds on the second Peak 2 years ago. I didn't expect that you wouldn't even let go of the ice and snow on my second Peak now. Stop it. My snow, it's about to melt away. How can this still be called a snow peak? Ow, ow, ow. Sorry, I was tricked by a bunch of scammers today. I originally planned to leave at 4 p.m. and go home, so 8 p.m. was more than enough time. In the end, no matter how good this author's arrangements were, it couldn't withstand the scammer's scams. I was forcefully dragged home at 7 p.m. and almost ran away in the end. Scammers. The bad news is, I'll upload 1 chapter first. The good news is, in order to compensate everyone, this author decided to add one more chapter, so this chapter doesn't count. I'll upload 4 chapters later. But with my speed it'll take me at least 3 hours to write. I'll finish today so you don't have to wait for me. It probably won't be too early. I'm going crazy. Chapter 287. Everyone looked up in unison, and saw the fluttering snowflakes in the sky instantly transform into a curtain of rain that rustled down with the people. The scenery was even more beautiful. Peak Master Morong's control over the water spirit was simply breathtaking. The woman who walked over in the drizzle was dressed in plain clothes. Her eyes were as resplendent as pearls, and she had a wicked smile on her lips. Xiaomu looked at her master in bewilderment, and silently looked down to check her fingers. As Murong Sun floated to the ground, half of Second Peak's main hall's roof collapsed, and the tiles clattered to the ground. That unlucky second Ant Master had to find someone to fix the roof. Suddenly, an old lady waving a large fan hopped in front of her. She giggled with a benevolent expression. "Io, this must be the grand disciple of my family that even the old king of Chiu Kingdom is rushing over to present as an apology gift. I'm your master's master." What apology gift from the old king of Chiu Kingdom? The child had no idea what the sect master was talking about. Before the elderly lady could finish speaking, Morong Sun flashed to her disciple's side and scooped up the child's tiny body. "Let's go, disciple. Second Peak isn't fun at all. Let's return to First Peak." The sect master slapped her fan and glared helplessly. "Wicked disciple. Master hasn't finished chatting with my grand disciple yet." "Sect master, what kind of greeting gift are you preparing for your grand disciple? Look at your grand disciple. She's a darling who advanced to phenomenal success level 6 in one go. You can't give a normal greeting gift, right?" Murong Sun glanced at the sect master from the corner of her eyes. "Hand over Maple Pavilion's key." The sect master was shocked. Only now did she realize that the child in front of her was a phenomenal success level 6 mystic cultivator. The sect master immediately wanted to pounce over and grab the child for a closer look, but she was blocked by Murong Sun, who was eager to protect her disciple. "What? Let me see. What a wicked disciple." She forgot about her master after having a disciple. What's wrong with master taking a look? Could a look cause your disciple to lose a piece of flesh? "What are you looking at?" "Just looking is enough." Murong Sun took a step back with the child in her arms and extended a hand to the sect master. "Give me the key. Tomorrow, I'll bring your grand disciple inside to pick out an item as a greeting gift from you." Elderly lady pouted and glared at Murong Sun. "Then what about you? What did you give your disciple as a meeting gift?" "Haha, that's right. Then let's just pick another piece and treat it as my greeting gift to my disciple." Murong Sun nodded logically and looked at the sect master elderly madam with a grin. "What?" At this moment, the old lady had the urge to slap herself in the face. Wouldn't it be fine if she didn't mention that? Bastard, unfilial disciple. All day long, he only knew how to anger her and refused to take over the position of sect master, letting her take off her burdens and enjoy her life. Unfilial, unfilial, unfilial. Little junior sister, you're amazing. Su Shanshan's eyes seemed to be shining, and a smile appeared on her aloof face. You broke through to phenomenal success as a level 6 mystic cultivator at such a young age. Truly, no one can compare to you. Arbor blinked and said to Su Shanshan, "Eldest senior sister, I'll give you and second senior sister a gift when we return." Murong Sun raised her eyebrows. "Only your eldest senior sister and second senior sister have gifts? Master doesn't have any?" The little stoic looked at her master seriously. "This thing is useless to master. Giving it to her is also a waste." Murong Sun burst into laughter. Oh my, her little disciple's expression was seriously extremely serious when she said waste. Chapter 288. Grand Disciple, you broke through to phenomenal success level 6 mystic cultivator at such a young age. You are truly extraordinary. With the sect master's keen eyesight, She could tell with a glance that Arbor could continue advancing and directly break through to level 7 Mystic Cultivator realm with her current situation. However, the child did not do so, which meant that although she was young, her wisdom was outstanding, and her willpower was also incomparable to normal people. Faint admiration flashed through the sect master's eyes. She nodded and took out a round jade bracelet from her waist. A verdant pine and cypress tree was carved into it. Murong-san accepted it without reservation and waved her fair wrist at the sect master. She said with a smile, "Thank you, sect master. Disciples, let's go home." Wicked disciple. The sect master angrily cursed again and watched Murong-san and her disciples leave. Although she was cursing, her eyes were full of smiles. Eldest senior sister, come out. A figure abruptly darted out from the ruins of the ruined eaves. She was covered in dust, and her hair was disheveled and askew. The sect master's lips involuntarily twitched when she saw her second disciple's wretched appearance. Lu Yun held a silk flower umbrella and covered her thin lips with her hand as she chuckled. Second senior sister, are you blind? Didn't you see that eldest senior sister brought her youngest disciple back to first peak? I already said that people shouldn't be too smug, or else they'll drown. Yang Shirong darted to the sect master with a whoosh. All the disciples silently counted in their minds. 1, 2, 3. Yang Shirong pounced over the moment she said 3. Master, eldest senior sister is bullying me. Yang Shirong hugged the sect master's thigh and kept tugging at the sect master's trousers. She wailed, Master, you must uphold justice for me, your disciple. Master, master, master. Don't pull, don't pull, don't pull. Don't pull, let go, let go. Let go. Arong, I order you to stand. Right. Let go. Hand. The sect master's face instantly turned green. She tugged at the waist of her trousers to prevent her idiotic disciple from pulling them down. The disciples of the second peak lowered their heads, their shoulders trembling slightly. Lu Yun covered her mouth and laughed uncontrollably. Master, eldest senior sister robbed my disciple. You must uphold justice for your disciple. How could she do such a wicked thing? My disciple is a level 4 mystic cultivator at such a young age. The sect master was dumbfounded, and then she replied woodenly. What level 4 mystic cultivator? My precious grand disciple is now a level 6 mystic cultivator at phenomenal success, and can advance to level 7 at any time. Haha, this wasn't bragging. If you could find a 7-year-old quasi-level 7 mystic cultivator in all of the 3 sects and 5 factions, and the entire Seikong planet, then you were awesome. The disciples of the second peak, including Lu Yun, could not help but twitch their lips. Sect master, you talk too much. You will soon know the consequences of talking too much. Yang Shirong's hand, which was tugging on sect master's trousers, froze for a few seconds. Then she let out an earth-shattering roar. Master, you have to uphold justice for your disciple. My little disciple, who's a phenomenal success level 6 mystic cultivator, was tricked away by eldest senior sister. You have to help me get her back. That's my treasure, my life, master, master. Rip. Following the sound of the sect master's trousers being ripped off, Yang Shirong's shouting came to an abrupt end. The sect master's complexion instantly turned the color of dirt, and she rapped her head heavily on her second disciple's forehead. F***CK. Freaking hell. How many times have you ripped master's trousers this year? Chapter 289. Murong-sun naturally did not care about the chaos on second peak. When she carried her youngest disciple back to first peak, she was immediately surrounded by all the disciples on first peak. Everyone wanted to see what their little junior sister looked like after Master rushed to second peak and forcibly snatched her back. Apparently, she was Master's last personal disciple. Master had the fewest personal disciples among the 3 peak masters. Previously there were only 3, so of course, including this little junior sister, there were 4. Everyone was quite curious and could not conceal the envy in their eyes. However, although they were a bit envious, their eyes were surprisingly clear and did not contain any jealousy. They were all well aware that compared to the outer sect disciples of the other 2 sects, Their treatment was considered good. A portion of them had mediocre aptitudes, but in holy water sect's first peak, no matter how mediocre their aptitudes were, they received the same amount of cultivation resources as everyone else. So Master did not favor one over the other. Master treated them very well. So even though their days were very torturous, none of them had the thought of leaving holy water sect. Holy water sect's first peak had the fewest disciples, only 153 people. The oldest disciple was 21 years old. Her name was Yu Qian. Although her aptitude was not good, she was very capable. Usually she was highly valued by the master. Some of the secular affairs on the first peak were basically handled by this senior sister Yu. The youngest was naturally our dear Xiaomu. Xiaomu, who was surrounded by a group of people, also curiously looked back at them. These were the senior sisters that she had to get along well with in the next few years. Morong Sun carried Xiaomu and said a few words to everyone. She did not need to instruct them too much. She was well aware of these disciples' personalities and conduct, so they definitely would not bully her youngest disciple. All right, your little junior sister just arrived at first peak and still has many things to do. There will be plenty of time to chat with her in the future, so let's disperse for now, Morong Sun said dryly, and was about to leave with Xiaomu. Yu Qian hastily walked out of the crowd and bowed to Morong Sun. She respectfully said, "Master, this disciple has something to report." Morong Sun paused and turned to look at Yu Qian. She asked kindly, "What is it?" Yu Qian lowered her head and said with a flushed face, "Sorry, Master, I didn't take good care of my junior sisters. 2 more junior sisters fainted today." Morong Sun. "Sect leader, your sister, come out." She really wanted to beat her up to vent her anger. "What do you mean by changing the 3-day meal to 5-day meal? Look at your grand disciples, they're fainting from hunger so easily. Doesn't your conscience hurt? They all fainted from hunger." Little child looked at the master and disciples as if she was looking at a weirdo. That look in his eyes was simply insane. Morong Sun suddenly had a feeling that her youngest disciple was looking at her like she was looking at an idiot. It made her feel so stifled. Yu Qian hurriedly raised her head and said, "Little junior sister, don't worry. Even if senior sisters eat less in the future, we won't starve you. Don't ever leave the sect. Master loves you very much. If you run away, Master will be sad." Morong Sun. She was actually speechless. The child. Thank you. If you go hungry for one more meal, you will die. For the sake of this baby, are you going to endure the pain and change it to 1 meal every 10 days? You bunch of idiots. Don't you know how to go out and pick up some missions? How about it? You're a group of level 3 and above mystic cultivators. Oh no, there are many level 5, level 6, and even level 7 mystic cultivators among you. It shouldn't be difficult for you to take on a few missions to support your families, right? Chapter 290. Master, what did Sect Master say about an apology gift? Arbor turned his head to look at Morong Sun. Morong Sun instantly understood. Let's go and take a look with me. That old king of the Chiu kingdom sent people here to give you 5 carts of items as an apology gift. As he spoke, his voice paused and he lowered his head to look at his disciple. Tell me what happened. Why did he suddenly send an apology gift? He must have offended her disciple. Morong Sun wanted to hear the situation. On the way here, I had a small conflict with the Chiu kingdom's guards in Ponytown. The child expressionlessly replied before furrowing her brows. Why would the great king of the Chiu kingdom give her an apology gift? Could it be? The child thought of something, and her eyes brightened. Back then, she was carried away by that swindler Qingwan, so this apology gift must have been obtained by Aoyi. This subordinate was pretty good. Knowing the situation, he tactfully grasped his little master's temperament. She loved to receive an apology gift the most. Small conflict? Morong Sun nodded with a smile. How could she know that the small conflict the child mentioned was the small conflict that alarmed the crown prince of the Mo kingdom and scared the *T out of the Chiu kingdom's great king? He wanted nothing more than to kneel and beg for mercy. Morong Sun carried the child away from first peak and earnestly said to the child, "My disciple, you did well. Don't let others bully you. Remember, if you can't beat them, come find me. I'll definitely beat them until they're looking for their teeth on the ground. If you don't tell me when you're bullied, I'll beat you until you're looking for your teeth on the ground. Understand? Arbor. I've always endured if I can't beat them and waited for them to counterattack. I won't find an adult to stand up for me. Morong-sun lightly rapped her head and followed up with a question. Do you understand? Okay, the little stoic helplessly replied. Good girl. Morong-sun chuckled and carried her as fast as lightning. The holy water sect's storehouse was on another snowy peak. In fact, the depths of the Great Snow Mountain were somewhat mysterious. It was clearly a large stretch of mountain range, but it seemed as if someone had dug out a large hole in the middle, wrapping the 5 snowy peaks in the middle of the mountain range. These 5 snowy peaks were all independent of each other, which was why Little Pao had said that disciples below level 7 could only rely on the big cranes to travel. Other than the main peak and the 3rd peak, the sky peak they went to was actually a warehouse located in the center of the 5 peaks. The maple pavilion that his master had mentioned was also on this snowy peak. Little fellow, after we accept your apology gift, we'll go to Maple Pavilion to help you find a decent mystic technique manual. Morong-sun's figure flashed, and she landed on Sky Peak with her disciple. This is a greeting gift from your grandmaster grandmother. It would be a waste not to accept it. Remember to pick the best one when the time comes. A person chooses a profound skill, and a profound skill will also choose a person. I'll tell you the details later. Go and accept your apology gift first. The little guy's eyes lit up. Mystical skill. Would she be able to obtain a profound skill manual? Mystical skill manuals were not those normal profound skill manuals circulating on the market. They were items that couldn't be bought with money. When the Holy Water Sect's warehouse manager led the master and disciple to a large pile of supplies, they couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. The items that the old king of the Chiu Kingdom purchased were truly quite extravagant. Master, I'll take half. Leave the other half for the sect. In the future, provide at least 2 meals a day. Let's think of a solution together. The little stoic turned around and solemnly looked at Morong-sun. It was already late, so they went to bed. They would return to normal tomorrow. Chapter 291. Before Morong-sun could speak, Auntie Yi pounced over and planned to hug the child and kiss her fiercely. Child, the sect is truly too grateful to you. If you need anything in the future, just tell Grandma. Grandma will definitely help you. Morong-sun blocked Auntie Yi's actions. Enough, enough, enough. Go divide the things and create a small storeroom. Disciple, this is your Grandma Yi. If you lack anything in the future, just ask Grandma Yi. Auntie. Sun is going to spoil her disciple to the heavens. Auntie Yi was over 50 years old, and was the sect master's personal attendant. She had managed Sky Peak for several decades, so she was naturally loyal and devoted to the entire sect. Recently, she had been worrying about the sect's food resources, so when she heard the child donate 2.5 carts of supplies, it was truly a blessing from the heavens. She did not know how to express her joy. Auntie Yi quickly gathered several subordinates to help divide half of the supplies in the storeroom, and move the rest to another small storeroom. She turned to Morong-sun with a chuckle and said, You master and disciple can call a few more people over to move. Big crane is in the back garden, so help yourself. I'm going to organize and register the supplies now, so I won't entertain you too. After Auntie Yi left, only Morong-sun and Xiaomu were left in the storeroom. Morong-sun took out a sect messenger talisman and said, Master will have your eldest senior sister, and the others come over and help move the things back to your court. Xiaomu's inner world naturally could not contain so many supplies. This was the common thought of all normal people. No need, master. Expressionlessly, the child stretched out his hand and took out 20 blank storage talismans. He roughly divided the batch of supplies and put the food, cloth, utensils, and so on into the talismans. In less than 30 minutes, he was done quickly. As soon as Xiaomu turned around, she was met with Morong-sun's dumbfounded face. Xiaomu thought for a moment, and took out 20 storage talismans from her pocket. She pattered to Morong-sun, and handed a stack of talismans to her. She magnanimously said, "Gifts for eldest senior sister and second senior sister are useless to master, so give this to master. Take it, I still have a lot." Disregarding the gifted and used storage talismans, she still had 100 empty blue storage talismans and 1 purple storage talisman. Morong-sun. What kind of rich disciple was this? Disciple, you are a talisman master. With so many storage talismans in hand, no one would believe that he was not a talisman master. Who was Morong-sun? She only needed to think for a moment to figure it out. The child didn't hide anything and nodded. "Yes, master. I'm a talisman master." Morong-sun swayed and hugged her little disciple in her arms. She lovingly patted her little head and said with a smile, You truly are a surprising child. I like your gift very much." The master and disciple left the storehouse and headed for Maple Pavilion. The 2 storehouse stewards who were guarding the door looked at each other, thinking that the master and disciple had gone back to call for someone. After waiting for a long time and not seeing anyone return, they inexplicably entered the storehouse to take a look and found that everything was gone. They couldn't help but be dumbfounded. By this time, the master and disciple had arrived at the entrance of the Maple Pavilion. From the outside, this looked like a simple small pavilion without any fancy decorations. There wasn't even a single guard around it. Morong-sun said, "There are 4 talisman matrices set up around Maple Pavilion. The first layer is an illusory matrix, the second layer is a trapping matrix, the third layer is a killing matrix, and the fourth layer is a killing matrix. If you try to force your way in without knowing the situation, you definitely won't be able to break in." Chapter 292. The child's eyes brightened. Talisman matrix. She had naturally heard of talisman matrices before, but there were very few talisman practitioners on Seacone Planet who knew how to set up talisman matrices. Many talisman matrices were passed down from 100 years ago. For example, according to her master, this talisman matrix on Sky Peak was set up by a powerful great talisman practitioner 300 years ago. The 4-layered talisman matrix used jade talismans to inscribe runes, so its power was limitless. Moreover, the talisman matrix had been used 5 times in the past 300 years, but the talisman energy still hadn't been completely exhausted. It could be seen how profound the talisman energy that great talisman practitioner injected back then was. The child stretched out her hands and looked down, her heart filled with endless longing. If only the golden talisman jade tome could teach me how to inscribe talisman matrices. She could first set up a mystic energy gathering talisman matrix for her senior sisters in the sect, and gather all the mystic energy around the sect. Cultivating inside the mystic energy gathering talisman matrix would definitely be more than twice as effective as cultivating normally. While she was lost in her thoughts, she saw Morong-sun toss out the jade bracelet engraved with a green pine tree. The instant the jade bracelet rose into the air, an oval-shaped transparent barrier visible to the naked eye formed outside the pavilion. Light flickered faintly, and the several hundred gathered jade talismans abruptly dispersed. The child curiously looked up, and saw the jade bracelet embedded in the front of the barrier. It turned out that this was the key to opening Maple Pavilion. That jade bracelet just happened to fit into the gap in the barrier, and the entire barrier was completed. The child immediately understood that this jade bracelet must also be engraved with a secret rune inscription. It was the key to closing the entire talisman matrix. The child's eyes glowed, and she admired this great talisman practitioner even more. What an amazing person! Morong-sun smiled faintly. This great talisman practitioner is your grandmaster grandmother's good friend. He's the previous patriarch of the talisman patrician family, Mu Chaoyang. Currently, he's been traveling outside for who knows how many years, and the entire talisman patrician family has become increasingly deformed. Morong-sun shook her head and patted the child's head. Don't say too much about these matters. They don't have much to do with us. Now you have to listen carefully to what Master is saying. You have to enter Maple Pavilion alone in a moment. Master can't accompany you inside. Maple Pavilion might look like an ordinary 2-story pavilion from the outside, but it actually has 7 levels. In fact, it had 7 floors, and each floor had different things. After you go in, don't worry about anything else. Just go upstairs. Go up as many floors as you can. The higher you go, the better. The child listened carefully and nodded his little head frequently. Until you encountered the resistance of the floor that prevents you from going up, don't try to force your way through. Stop immediately. In the center of this floor, there's a crystal platform. Inject your profound energy into it. From the 4th floor onwards, there are not only profound skills, but also profound weapons and even spirit weapons and spirit skills. Treasures choose people, and people choose treasures. When you choose, you have to rely on your own heart. Naturally, the thicker the profound energy covering a spiritual item, the better it was. Understand? The child nodded. Morong-sun knew that she was meticulous and extraordinarily intelligent, so she did not say anything else. She chuckled lightly and said, "Then go in now. Remember, the talisman matrix will transport you out once 4 hours are up. That's why you have to hurry." "Got it, master." The child was eager to try. Not only did she want to go in and pick a treasure, she also wanted to go in and observe this talisman formation. Even though she would definitely not be able to figure out the profundity of the talisman formation, at least she would be able to come into close contact with it. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.